This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Ancio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik with a touchdown.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome. 365 Sports, Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. Smokey is off doing Midway tonight. And Craig, it's a bummer he keeps missing these Friday shows because each and every week, and look, we partially owe some of this to realignment and some of it to just good television scheduling. But this is another good week of college football where there's some really cool big-time banger Big Daddy games out there.
Yeah, there is. He's actually been out Thursdays most of the time up to this point. So we've had him on Fridays, but this is the first Friday of their season so far, and I guess they're a couple weeks out from the midway point here. Pretty soon they'll be halfway through, but he's in the midst of doing that, covering high school football, which of course is king here in the state of Texas. So can forgive him for that, but he's missing out. Had a few days to talk about the games, but we get to dive a little bit further today, and I'm very excited. I mean, I cannot wait to see Jackson Arnold's return to Norman. I can't wait to see obviously Texas Tech and Utah and who comes out on the other side of that one. I can't wait to see Baylor, Arizona State, because I just think there's going to finally be like a little bit of separation and some evidence on these teams. And that goes for multiple games around the country and multiple leagues around the country where we start to dip our toes into conference play, but still have, some of these other TCU, SMU, Iron Skillet, final Iron Skillet for a long time. There's a good lineup. I'm looking forward to it.
So it is the final Iron Skillet for a long time, but SMU's conference, the ACC, they're getting close to a new schedule format. There are two options that they have to get to 10 Power 4 games. So there is doing 9 conference games, but you can't have an evenly rotating schedule of 9 conference games when you have 17 teams in the league. So one of the proposals has the Notre Dame game counting in the ACC, and then there's other ways to figure it. I think the one that's going to get through is 8 plus 2, which would be 8 conference games plus 2 Power 4 games. That's what Clemson favors and some others. And if Clemson, they're one of the stronger teams in the league, obviously. If that's their push, I think that one is likely to go through. But there are problems with that one as well. But everybody's going to have 10 P4 games in those P4 conferences coming up, or at least they're going to try.
Yeah, I think that it's news that we were expecting to have to occur at some point once the SEC went full bore and got what they wanted to make the move to 9 games. And that was just a couple of weeks ago. Once that happened, then it was just the ACC on an island by itself there with 8 conference games. Now you bring up Notre Dame potentially counting. So wouldn't that mean you're a member of the ACC?
See, that's the thing. It's like, so
silliest arrangement ever.
Notre Dame could go 4-0 in those 4 games they play every year. Here's another caveat to that. 3 of the teams in the conference are going to get to play Notre Dame more than anybody else will. And if they already have their P4, their other game set, then how does that one count? It's too convoluted because Notre Dame, and we'll say requested, and I would say maybe demanded, but Clemson, Miami, and Florida State will play Notre Dame more than the other 14 teams in the league will. Right. They'll rotate through at a more rapid basis. So then you've got, what does it mean for those teams, particularly Clemson and Florida State, who already have a non-conference Power 4 game on their schedule with South Carolina and Florida. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to sort out. They have way more of a problem trying to figure this out than I think the other leagues did, because it's just kind of convoluted with the Notre Dame piece to this, but also the wanting to preserve traditional rivalries. Everybody else wanted that as well. But in some cases, there weren't all of the traditional rivals that you wanted to preserve that were on board. Like, for example, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. I'm sure maybe that's something that we get again because of the way the schedules are going now. But that wasn't something that Oklahoma State had to worry about initially. Like TCU and Baylor, they're in the same conference. The Iron Skillet's going to the wayside. So I think there was just maybe less hurdles in preserving as many matchups for some leagues versus a league like the ACC, where it appears to be a little bit more complicated how they're going to make all of the numbers work. So, yeah, it's at least a positive sign, although a sign that they had to really show at some point, because you're the only ones and you're not in a position of power to where you can be like the SEC was for so long of, well, we'll play 9 games, but you're going to have to pay us or we're not doing S. Yeah. The ACC can't really say that because ESPN will say, okay, we'll remember that here in a few years. We'll remember what you said. And when you drew that line in the sand, see what your next TV contract looks like, especially if you lose some of the top schools by the time that rolls around, which is what a lot of people anticipate what will happen. But yeah, this is far from over. This is going to be something that is talked about on Monday when they meet in Charlotte. So that's going to be where a lot of the discussion finds clarity, and what exactly they might do will come out on the other side of that. But it says in the CBS article, any adjustments probably wouldn't be implemented in 2026, and a formal vote likely won't come for several weeks, no matter what they decide on Monday. I guess they could always surprise everybody, and then somebody just comes in and goes, look at this idea, it's perfect. I doubt that'll happen. So, again, this is something that's going to take some time, but I think on the surface, the story is that ACC is moving to 9 conference games somehow or another, and will be in line with everybody else. And I'm all for uniformity in this case, not always, but in this case, I think it's silly to have 2 are playing 9, 2 are playing 8. They're arguing about this strength of schedule. They're arguing about this. And it's like, dude, everybody play the same amount. Mm-hmm. Everybody plays 9. Everybody plays 3 non-cons. Preserve your rivalries. Pay the small school their $500K to come get whooped in Auburn, Alabama. We'll all have that game as well. And everybody just have a very black and white sort of standard scheduling model. I think that's good for the sport. I think you look at every other sport out there, and it's pretty clear cut of you play this division and then you rotate and you play that division. You play this team from that division this many times and so on and so forth, home and away. And And that's how it works. So I'm all for everybody being on the same guidelines there, although I know that doesn't stamp out the argument of why your 9's tougher than this 9, and that's where then the committee and strength of schedule and all that can come into play. But everybody just needs to be playing the same amount of games.
But that will change year to year because, teams change year to year. Now, there are problems with it, and David Teal, this was behind a paywall, so I kind of had to go through, kind of piecemeal it. But I would say one of the biggest problems, especially if they go to 8+2, Craig, is that you have the Big 12, who I think would probably be thrilled for this, right? Generally, this is good games for us. They've already got some scheduled, like TCU and UNC and UCF and all that. So, you've got those, right? But, does the Miami-Florida game go away? Because Florida, their requirement in the SEC is 9 conference games and 1 Power 4 opponent. Well, they've already got that with Florida State. That game's not going away. So Miami and Florida is probably gone, except for, short little blips of it, right? Until that game benefits. The other one would be the Big Ten. So if you're going to have to schedule a P4 opponent, and there's 17 of you, and there's, 60-something of everybody else. And the SEC already, half their teams already kind of have one that's permanent, and they're not motivated to necessarily add another one. And then you have the Big Ten, who has teams like Indiana, who have already gone out of their way to cancel games, particularly with Virginia in your own conference. Are they motivated to add that if that's not one of the requirements that they have to play an out-of-conference power opponent? That's another thing. So there's a wall that I think they'll hit. I mean, I think everything can be cleared, but when you have the Big Ten that does not have that same scheduling requirement, then, what do you do?
Well, maybe the Big Ten will actually have to follow suit for once and not be in their own little pulpit of opinion. Yeah. I think, we've had to see them dragged along before during COVID. Yeah. They were like, no, we're not playing. And I think the sentiment back then was, and I know it was very charged up at that point, but I think they kind of said, we're not playing. So they expected everybody else was just going to be like, I guess, well, the Big Ten says that we're not going to play now. Oh, they're partnered with the Pac and the ACC. Well, I guess that means football's gone. And the SEC and Big 12 are like, bold S. Yeah. And next thing you know, everybody's playing football. Yeah. So their word is not final in any way. And so I think first of all, you got to nail the details, because here's the part about this. They're not just saying, yes, we're going to 9+3 and a 10th power conference opponent. That's one of the ideas. The other idea is an 8+2 model that I think you might have mentioned, which would be, so there's the 9 conference games and a non-con versus a P4, which is what I think we'd all want to see, that requirement. But then they're also debating 8+2 and then the flexibility to keep a traditional annual rival. And here's the part where I think you said Florida State was in favor earlier, but it says the report's straw poll of 13 ADs showed 9 supported or open to a 9-game conference slate. Clemson and Florida State were 2 that had reservations.
No, they want the 8+2.
Yeah.
They want the 8+2. Because, and to be honest, I think their thing is, we'd rather have the 8+2 because we don't like playing you guys anyway. That's their attitude. And so they would rather just go take their South Carolina and Florida and then go find somebody else to play every year.
Yeah, so that's one of the hangups here, and that's why it's not just like, hey, this is rolling through. So they'll meet in Charlotte on Monday. They'll have these discussions. But, yeah, Clemson and Florida State are clearly doing their own thing and doing what they want to do and putting their own thoughts out there, and I don't blame them. They got to do what's best for them, but they might be a hiccup in this just being plainly simple across the board. 9+3, power 4 opponent in one of those 3 games. You get your traditional rival in there. So this will be talked about on Monday, but it was expected the ACC was going to have to say something at some point because the SEC made their move, and once they did, again, the Atlantic Coast Conference was the only one out there from the Power 4 that was not addressing this right now. So they had to. They are. But what it looks like on the other side remains to be seen, and it just feels like a very awkward way to handle business when you've clearly got a couple teams that are not wanting to do what you're wanting to do, and they're already getting every advantage that they fought for over the last couple of years, like more money and things like that. but now there may be a hiccup in you changing your schedules. And then on top of that, they're doing all this while they're there, knowing full well the whole time they're talking out the other side door and are planning their exit the moment that they can. So I just think when you're looking at the conferences, like say what you want about the football or whatever, but that is why the Big 12 is in a much better place than the ACC. And it's not even close. Like it's not even close. They don't have anybody. Now, could a random school get a Big 10 invite or something? I've seen the rumors about Utah. I've seen the rumors about Kansas. I've seen the rumors about TCU. I've seen the rumors about like 50 schools. But there's no meat on the bone to that for right now. We know at Clemson and Florida State what's going on.
Yeah.
And they're publicly like, yeah, we're not going along with this. We don't want that. So that league's just in a really kind of unhealthy spot, I feel like, right now. And it's going to be that way for at least the next few years while they're all together.
When you have your two regular conference winners saying like, look, we're done caring about winning this conference as much as we used to, like we would like to go try and win another one or just be different. It's going to be hard, but that money thing also, here's the thing. Part of the reason that 8+2 exists or that they want it, and Clemson and Florida State are in favor of that is that part of the extra money that they get that they negotiated is based on who gets the higher TV ratings. Mm-hmm. So if I already have a game at the end of the year, I know Florida State and Florida and Clemson, South Carolina, that's going to make a ton, like it's going to get good ratings. No matter what, it's going to get good ratings because those are teams that are brands and, good and rivalry week and all that. That's fine. But if I could add a second one in the 8+2 that at the beginning of the season I could get similar ratings to, that's going to help my overall number for the year and help me take more money from this conference because, look, you could tell Wake Forest that they have to do an 8+2 and they can go, get, Baylor and Northwestern on the schedule. And no offense to either of those schools, but that's not going to Baylor versus Wake Forest or Wake Forest versus Northwestern. It's not going to get close to the number that if Clemson could play LSU again, or Clemson played Alabama, or Florida State played Auburn, or Georgia, or whatever two they do have on the schedule coming up, then that's going to give the number and that's going to set them up better week one or week two than anybody else going down the line.
Well, they're also in a position where, and I know we got other stuff, but they're in a position where if you are playing 9 conference games, one of the logical points to mention is that there's not necessarily great games that are coming off of that. So now you're getting Wake Forest versus BC, which you wouldn't have had that if it was only 8 games. Well, yay. I mean, no offense to those fan bases. It's just, I'm trying to think of like a game that the nation's not going crazy for.
As far as like a ratings thing, it would only be big if both those teams were randomly good at the same time, which they haven't been.
So yeah, does the 9th game even like really better your deal in the long run, or is it actually watering it down to some extent? Like these are all the things those really high, well-paid employees of these university athletic departments are going to figure out on Monday, and I'd imagine for the next few weeks as well. And we'll hear word sometime probably by the end of the season, one would hope, on what that actually looks like. But yeah, the drums are beating for a scheduling change, but Clemson and Florida State are definitely a thorn in the side of any type of full-on unanimous progress. And they're not the only ones. I'd imagine North Carolina's probably got their own opinion on it, and whoever else is planning their backdoor exit at the moment, which could be like half the league for all we know. Certainly Louisville better be on alert, I would think, as one example of a team that better be planning for a couple of different routes that the future could take them. So, yeah, we'll see what they come out with. But, yeah, you've got the Notre Dame issue, and they basically want to do anything and everything but be an official member of your league. Yeah. And then you've got these other 2, if not 3 or 4, but 2 for certain that are clearly in your league and getting their own way and wanting more of their own way and are going to only worry about their own way until they don't want you to be a part of their way anymore. Yeah. So it's not a very healthy dynamic, I think, going on for those in power, whereas in other leagues, it's like everybody's pretty much on board. You might have a couple people who disagree, but ultimately, if you got 14 out of 16, that's pretty good. But, yeah, in this situation, it's just a different dynamic because of the Notre Dame factor and also the very, very public lawsuit of the last year.
Yeah. I picture like when they have like the Big 12 or the ACC meetings, like Clemson, Florida State, Notre Dame, like take the parking spots closest, even though they may not be there, parking spots, like barge into the room late. And then they're like, Like, oh, we had a shrimp, and then they're like, yeah, just take Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, come here, give me that. Yeah, they just give me some of that. And that's kind of like Notre Dame just been like, hey, where's mine? And they're like, yeah, but you're not even really fully here. And they're like, yeah, but we tell you what to do. So
yeah, but we want one.
Yeah,
so
we want one. So yeah, it's just so strange. Also, schedule news now. I'm looking forward to this because I'm just supremely curious, Craig, to find out how they broke it down for the 9-game schedule and who the 3 permanent opponents for everybody are going to be. We can guess probably 2 for most of them. But again, when you have new teams that have never played each other and have no history playing each other, the SEC has got a bit of a problem in trying to sell some new matchups as to the fan bases, at least particularly of those teams of, hey, guess what, Mizzou? You guys are going to play South Carolina every year. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, I guess, but would rather have somebody else, but I guess that's how it works, So I'm very curious, but on Tuesday, the SEC will release their 9-game 2026 schedule and each team's 3 rivalry opponents.
Yeah, so that'll be cool for fans of the league to see who they're going to be arranged with for at least the next few years. And I think, there's obviously some logical choices. It's funny because last night I was just kind of researching what people's opinions were on permanent opponents. There's obvious ones, right? Mm-hmm. But you get into those certain schools where there's like, who's the third school? It doesn't make any, like Oklahoma Vandy, or like, and Oklahoma I think has their 3, but Missouri, Texas, and then that third one, it wouldn't be Vandy, but you know what I'm saying is like, there's not a clear 3 for everybody that just works for everybody. But I saw a tweet from 2 years ago, and it made me kind of giggle. And it's from the SEC's propaganda minister over at ESPN. You know who I'm talking about.
Peter Burns.
Yeah. And he said, no doubt, this is from June of 2023. No doubters, Bama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Florida, Georgia, likely Texas, Oklahoma. You think? You think that might be a no doubter too? Like probably the biggest game in the league, not named the Iron Bowl. Like, what are you talking about? Anyways, so yeah, I mean those are the games that are obvious. Beyond that, though, I'll be interested to see like who all these schools are linked up with, and I think some probably have a pretty good idea of who that'll be already. But there's some they're going to be a little bit different. So this is a fun step forward and just a cool thing I think that comes with them playing 9 games. That you're going to have this element of your kind of standard rivals that you can always count on for at least the foreseeable future, and then the wild card of whoever else you get, and that's part of the fun of these scheduling releases as well. So yeah, that's a good thing, and I'll look forward to seeing who they all announce on Tuesday, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, the ones I definitely want to see that are permanent, like throughout the league, like kind of randomly. I want Florida and LSU to be permanent. I want LSU and A&M to be permanent. I don't know if either of those are going to happen. Honestly, I want LSU. I want Florida and Tennessee to be permanent.
I think LSU and Texas A&M will probably be permanent. Like LSU is a hard one though, because I feel like they've got like 6 or 7 schools you could put in there. LSU, Florida, LSU, Bama, LSU. Like
I would love LSU to keep Florida. I think it's going to be LSU, right? Bama, LSU, Ole Miss, and LSU A&M, because I think they're going to keep it regional.
Yeah,
I think you want to try to go back to securing your SEC West East type of rivalries if you can, and then branch out from there. That's why I would love LSU to play Florida every year, but I feel like that's the approach they're going to take. And with Florida traditionally being on the east side, I don't think they're going to do that. But I think you're going to see Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Bama be LSU's 3.
Crazy that A&M would be there ahead of Florida. Like,
it's crazy.
But I mean, they have developed in a short amount of time a pretty good little history, though.
And the thing is that there's like back before all this was a thing.
Oh, they used to play, yeah.
One bar face mask time. LSU and A&M played every single year.
And then they ducked them.
Yeah, and then it's funny. A&M was in a position where like we can't drop LSU, and then RC Slocum came in and started beating LSU, and LSU's like, wait a minute. Hold on a second. You know what? Let's just take a break.
LSU's the one that I think is really interesting because they could have like 6 different teams. Yeah. You could say Ole Miss, you could say A&M, you could say Alabama, you could say Florida, you could say Arkansas. Yeah. I mean, you could go any direction with them, and you're going to leave somebody out. So yeah, it's not going to be. And then there's others that you're like, okay, the third one's not going to make sense no matter who it is, but who will it be? So, yeah, I'm curious on how they do that. There definitely won't be a perfect way to do it. Somebody will have a complaint no matter what. Like, there'll be something random like Oklahoma, Kentucky that we're going to just like have to try to make a rivalry because the numbers don't work. But you know what? Make the most of it. And, this will be something kind of fun to talk about come Tuesday when they release that. Yeah,
I want like A&M's, I think, should be Texas, LSU, and Arkansas. I think that should be their three. And that'll probably be the case for them. You know, I think that'll be that. Texas should be Oklahoma, A&M, and Arkansas. I don't think Texas and Arkansas will be permanent, though. I get a feeling that Texas
I do feel like that one's kind of that one at this point, and I grew up
just because we live here.
I grew up where they played each other a lot, though. Like growing up, they did play each other frequently, but I do feel like that one's kind of gone to the wayside of history compared to some of the others. It's not nearly what it once was, and that's more of like those who were there for the Southwest Conference glory days. Those are the ones that it's like the what's that word? The nostalgia of like there's a ton of nostalgia for that game, but there's not really like a lot of meat to it.
Member berries on that one. The member berries, as they were called in South Park.
Yeah.
You remember this?
That's
what that game would be. And I admit, like, that's probably why I want it, because I think about, all that history. But Texas and Arkansas might not happen, because I do think that there might be like Texas in another big boy school that they decide like we're going to play this game every year because we're not stupid and we're going to play. Not that it would be Alabama. They're just like, we're going to play Texas and Alabama every year because we're going to take that TV number.
Yeah, I think Texas, Arkansas might be the one. I mean, if you're going to do it as clean cut as possible, OU, Texas A&M, and Arkansas would be the simplest way to do that for Texas. So maybe it does work out that way, or maybe it's just something completely random. Yeah, like Texas Vandy is suddenly one of those. I don't know, but. Vandy would probably have Tennessee, obviously, right off the top. Yeah. Tennessee's another school. Like, how many different teams could they be rivals with?
Auburn hates Tennessee. Ole Miss hates Tennessee. Alabama hates Tennessee.
Florida.
Georgia hates Tennessee. Florida hates Tennessee. LSU hates Tennessee. Like, they all do. So, like, they would – that's one – like, LSU and Tennessee probably have the fan bases that are going to be, like, disappointed that there's not one of those in there, as where – I think some of the other ones, like Alabama, has enough to where they're like, oh, as long as we're playing these, like, we're fine. Like, we hate them enough. But like Florida, like they're playing Florida State, they're playing Georgia. That's really the two that their fans care about.
Crazy though is that this is why it's going to be fun to see on Tuesday who these teams actually are, because I've seen more than a couple of people like reporting. And look, granted, like at this point on social media, I don't know who's who. Like, I mean, like nothing means anything. It's all just like, is this person legit? Okay, I'll just roll with it. But I've seen like more than a couple people and just looking for like Tennessee permanent opponents that are saying it's going to be Alabama because that's like that's a good easy call there. And then Vandy because it's obviously in state, and then like Kentucky because it's right there as well. Which hell, man, that'd be a hell of a draw because you'd maintain rivalries, but you'd also kind of be off the hook for like instead of it being an LSU, Florida, Alabama. Granted, respect to Vandy right now, but if you take that, like Vandy, Kentucky, and Alabama, I think you'd feel really solid about that if you're Tennessee. So I don't know. That's the kind of thing that these schedule makers are going to have to figure out, and we'll see on Tuesday what they've come up with. But there will be complaints. There's no way you can make it perfect, I would think, because the rivalries run so deep in so many schools that like, or a couple of them that we mentioned have so many that, well, what do you mean we're not going to play LSU every year anymore, right? So, we'll see what Sankey and company have cooked up, I guess, here in a few days.
All right. First hour, no guests. So we'll get through the news and we'll go through some of these bigger games this week and kind of break them down, maybe deeper than the picks we made the other day, like Michigan, Nebraska, and all of that. But I do, before we go to break, I do
want to make one more mention.
Yeah.
The annual opponents will be every 4 years.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that note because that's something to be aware of. So this is not going to be like for the next 20 years. So every 4 years. And I like that. I like that if there's a new rivalry that develops or there's a team like Florida, Tennessee that aren't playing, the next go around, they need to probably play. You replace Kentucky with Florida. So that's another element.
You could easily trade third opponents for a lot of people.
And that's probably what they'll do.
Yeah. So like the top two will probably never change. And that third one, like that Oklahoma, South Carolina game, they'd be like, Man,
that'll be Oklahoma A&M or something.
Yeah, these two Oklahoma A&M games were actually pretty good these last couple years. Let's throw that on the thing because they're both good right now, and let's play that game.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that because that's a way that they'll also be able to keep this a little tidier of like it's not a permanent forever thing. Every 4 years, shake it up, and that way you kind of get the best of both worlds. It just won't be all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this video, this is Fran Brown, Syracuse head coach. He's on a podcast, and he's talking about if you are going to tamper with his players, and this is the most direct a coach has ever been about this topic.
Deal with guys getting poached. I don't even care, bro. Dudes be trying to push up on my wife. She bad. It's just the game, right?
Yeah.
That's what they do. I don't care, but like, don't let me find out, and then I see, because I ain't no bitch.
Yeah.
Right?
But you take it that personal, if like a school comes and gets a guy?
But like, I'm gonna come at you, like, yo,
Right.
what's up, yo? Like, well, I'm gonna see you, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple dudes I called, and they try, hey, lose my line. You better, like, man, shut up.
We know Fran from when he was here.
Mm-hmm.
None of this surprised me about him.
Dude, he's from Camden, New Jersey.
I know, he's from Camden, New Jersey. He grew up in a place where if you step into a fight, you better be ready to fight.
Growing up, more often than not, it was not something I followed like religiously by any means, but the occasional times throughout life where you hear what's the most dangerous city in America, Camden, New Jersey was number one for like a multitude of years there for a while. I don't know if it still is or if it has been for a while, but for a long time it was. And that's where he's from. And he is very much a Camden, New Jersey dude. He did not fit around here.
Yeah.
He's he was a square peg in a round hole. He was a great football coach, but just like culturally, he's from Camden, New Jersey. That's a far cry from like Central Texas, right?
Yeah.
So I think he's a character that is good for college football. That's for some people probably a little bit too open, but I admire that he is just who he is, and that's who he's always seemed to be. And I won't pretend to know him personally or all that well. Talk to him like maybe a couple of times when all was said and done, but I fully believe he's authentic. And I would not want to be on his bad side. And I think that maybe like if we go pro wrestling right here, like him and Jeff Traylor and a couple other guys who are constantly getting poached at, like can kind of form a collective of like, all right, we want to rumble in the streets. Like it's Anchorman with the different news crews, right? Like meet each other in the streets. Give me Fran Brown and Jeff Traylor and a couple of other guys who can't have their rosters left alone that are sick and tired of it to go up against the constant poachers. I'd pay pay-per-view money for that. I'd sign up for ESPN Plus for that.
Yeah.
To watch that rumble.
Hey, guess what I did? I pulled a Smokey. Zach Barnett. Next up at 3:30 every single Friday. See, look, when I have to be the Smokey, one of you guys has to be the me, and then one of you guys has to be the Craig, like to make sure we don't do these things. And then we change roles.
Yeah, well, I guess we better get to him then, huh?
So let's take a break, get Zach on. We'll be right back.
.com can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Hi, this is David Smoak. Dr. Kent Petty, 10 years strong, started to check on men's testosterone level and see if that is why you have any of the symptomatic issues that 1 out of every 3 or 4 men have. For example, you hear a lot about, well, the lack of sex drive, or if you have that, then the performance. You struggle with making things happen the way you want and the way you need. Also, energy, not good. You're gaining belly fat, but you're also working out pretty consistently. You have a good diet, or you're just not sleeping well. All of the above. Contact PettyClinicLowT.com. Tell them I sent you. They'll set you up to get your blood work. Dr. Petty will get your blood results and then see if your testosterone level is too low. And if it is, he can give you the option to become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a T-fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's back 0% for 72 months on all 2025 Ram 1500 trucks during the Drive into Fall event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Check out a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab with a massive $16,000 off, or a 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $12,000 off, and both at 3.9 for 72 months. And if you drive a Ford, Toyota, or GM, get an extra $1,500 bonus cash. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Summer's heating up, but Bird Coach and Ford is freezing prices.
Right now, get 0% APR for 48 months, 0 down, and no payments for 90 days. Cool off with us in our freezing showroom and catch a hot deal before summer's over. Whether it's an F-150, Explorer, or Escape, we've got the perfect deal waiting for you.
Whew. Texas weather can be crazy. Shop anytime inside our showroom or at bkford.com. Experience better at Bird Coach and Ford.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
You have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a T-fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Welcome back. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak here on 365 Sports and Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com. If you've not gone, footballscoop.com is the, like, I say this to you all the time. You guys are so quick and glorious in the simplicity to get to news now, which is something that is lacking in sports websites, because if I go to like a big time one, I have to sift through a lot of stuff to find the thing I want. And so you guys are direct and right to the point, and I love it. I
appreciate that. Thank you. I'll say this to your audience will understand this. What Matt Stepp is for Texas high school football, we try to be for college football, from Alabama to Mary Hardin Baylor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely love it, Zach, and love having you on the show. So this is a fun week of games, starting out with Tech and Utah. There's a couple of these games this week. Michigan and Nebraska is one of them. The if not now, when is it going to be games? And not necessarily for Utah as much, although this is a big statement win for them in the Big 12 if they get it. But for Tech, this is one that they really would like to have to announce their presence with authority.
Yeah, I said earlier today on our Ticket podcast, and I'd love your opinion, Paul, if I'm wrong on this, but isn't this the biggest Tech game since they went to Oklahoma in November of 2008?
I think it's probably up there, Zach. Yeah, and I hope this is a different outcome for them than that one, because that was really bad, man.
Man.
Yeah, it feels like it's a very big game for Tech in particular.
Yeah, I mean, you've been waiting as a fan base 17 years. This is what year 4 under Joey. So you've been building for this for 4 years now. And this is where you expect to be, certainly where you've paid to be. And so now it's time to go prove it. And if they go and lose to Utah, 30-28 or something like that, then there's certainly no shame in that. There's going to be a whole lot of season ahead of them. But at the same time, Tech is the most accomplished Big 12 program that ever even played a Big 12 championship game. So there is a little bit of if not now win. And certainly the future is very bright for them moving forward. But you'd like to see proof in the pudding at some point. To draw another comparison, it seems similar to when Texas went on the road to Alabama in 2023. It was like, all right, we have a belief in the building that we can go win a game like this, but we actually have to go do it to prove it to ourselves and to the nation that we can. And as I wrote on Football Scoop, like we see lots of irresistible force versus a movable object type games in college football, but we've never once in the history of the sport has the immovable object been a Texas Tech run defense. So I'm very excited to see how Utah runs the ball against this Tech front.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a stat from, I think it was Pro Football Focus, and like the top 4 guys were Texas Tech offseason acquisitions. Like it was Romello Height, and it was Lee Hunter, and it was a couple of Skylar Gill Howard, and
Bailey
and David Bailey. And I remember them getting all those guys, but I was like, oh, geez, that wasn't one offseason, and that was only 4 of the guys, but they were all on that front or edge guys. And yeah, this is the game that you signed them up to go and win, not to go and place second and look good, but like to go beat them and to kind of maybe even do it with a little bit of authority.
Yeah, and credit to Tech and to that staff for nailing their evaluations. It's one thing to have a lot of money to spend, but we've seen a lot of programs spend it on the wrong guys. And so their investment so far has paid off, especially Romello Height's a guy that his 4th program in 5 years, something like that. Yeah. So there's a reason he got all those opportunities, and there's also a reason, kind of like Jadeveon Clowney on the Cowboys. There's a reason he's been around as long, but there's also a reason he's been on a different team every single year. So credit to Tech for getting that, and credit to Joey and his staff for getting their guys to buy in, because certainly there's got to be guys in that locker room that have poured 3-4 years of blood, sweat, and tears that aren't getting the same opportunities and the same rewards as some of these guys that got there just a few months ago. But so far it hasn't seemed to hurt them, but they've been on the greens so far, and they're going to be on a double black diamond on Saturday morning.
So Zach, one of the other if not now win games, Michigan at Nebraska. Nebraska, like if you look at where Nebraska's roster is, they were where Michigan is now theoretically last year, except for the fact that they're rebuilding and Michigan was just kind of reshuffling after winning the national championship. But, true freshman quarterback, stud starting. Now, Dylan Raiola's in his 2nd year. Is this the time where Nebraska can go get that, which would be the biggest win of Matt Rhule's career anywhere, going and doing this and beating Michigan if they can get it done?
Yeah, I certainly think there's a whole lot more pressure on Nebraska than Michigan, but I find it interesting that Michigan's favored on the road with a true freshman quarterback. I thought Bryce Underwood had more to offer than Michigan asked out of him at Oklahoma. Not to say that they were going to go win the game, because the way that game played out was they played that game 7 times out of 10. Oklahoma probably wins it by 17-20, most of them. They won that one by 11. But I thought Sharon Moore played that more not to lose, not to get blown out, than actually win it. And it was interesting because Sharon Moore got that job because he was extremely aggressive, pushing his chips to the table over and over again in that Penn State and that Ohio State game. Now he's the head coach and he plays it more conservative. He's not going to be the head coach on Saturday for reasons we don't need to get into. But I like to see Michigan, if they go in to try to actually win the game instead of keeping it close, I think they can. I still think Nebraska's average at a lot of places, and might be including quarterback. Dylan Raiola's numbers look really good so far, but he had to throw like 44 times to get like 250 yards against Cincinnati. They were not efficient, not explosive in that game, and that's who this team is until proven otherwise to me. So I'm very interested to see how because you're absolutely right. It's time for Matt Rhule. If you can't beat the number 21 team at home with a true freshman quarterback as talented as he is and an interim head coach, what are we doing here?
So, Zach, you don't want to – I was hoping we were going to relitigate Michigan's scandal from day one and just go through story by story. No, none of us want to do that. Clearly, none of us want to do that. Man, it's you had an interesting going back to Tech versus Utah for a second. You had an interesting comment on that this week about the TV ratings and how the Big 12's not really hitting this 4 kind of million benchmark where you go like, oh, that's a good number. And you pointed out that their number with Colorado was nearly 3 million, but there's this very important unique factor called Deion Sanders that plays into that as well. So do you feel like this Tech Utah game's kind of a barometer check of where the interest level is nationally in the league?
Yeah, I think it's fair. Certainly, they're not going to shut down the conference, and Big 12 football will be extinct by Monday morning if it doesn't reach some arbitrary number or anything like that. But I am going to be interested to see the number because I think you have 2 B-level brands. This isn't Georgia versus Alabama, but you're going to have an A-level scene. This should be a great football game, and the people of Utah love their Utah Utes. The Big Noon is traditionally year after, or not year after year, but for the last 2 years, it's the highest rated window. For a long time, that was the 2:30 CBS game, the SEC game on CBS. Now it's become Big Noon. Obviously, Ohio State and Michigan carry that more often than not, but it's the Big 12's turn to get a shot at it. And certainly it's in the clicker rotation for all of us at 11 a.m., no matter who's playing, what's on. So I think I think the hope is that you can attach some viewers and keep them with a compelling product, because the Big 12 football is a compelling, great product from week to week. So I'm certainly going to be rooting for it. I think if you're that 5-6 million, I think that's a win for the conference.
One more Big 12 game I want to ask you about before I have a couple of the kind of randos for you. But Arizona State and Baylor, both these teams are unranked, but they both lost to Arizona State lost to a Mississippi State team that was as charged up early on in that game. They kind of got cowbelled out of it early. And then Baylor lost a game to Auburn, who is maybe the most improved team in the SEC over last year, potentially. This is not necessarily like the biggest mover and shaker game, but for either of these teams, this is kind of a key one if they want to stay in the race early on.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for Baylor. The vibes that Kenny Dillingham has put out is kind of that he hates this team and kind of wants them to get their butt kicked and say, "See, I told you so." And they fell behind, or obviously early at Mississippi State, and certainly part of that was probably Mississippi State ran out of gas after having so much energy, and also part of it was Arizona State's like, okay, now we're being pushed as hard as we can. Now we'll give it our full effort, and it obviously they came back and it made it interesting, but lost the game. And the joke of the Big 12 is every game's a 3-point spread, and Baylor's, the last I looked, was a 2.5-point favorite at home. But when you look at Baylor's schedule, I don't see a game they can't win. Not meaning they're going to win all of them, but there's ample opportunity for the Big 12 middle class for someone to rise up. You do get Utah at home, but your next two after this one are Oklahoma State and Kansas State, and those two are down bad to extremely bad. So there's a great opportunity for Baylor, for Dave Aranda to build some momentum, some belief within that locker room if they can play good enough defense to win on Saturday.
So over at Football Scoop, you guys talk games, but you talk like the big picture with a lot of stuff, including coaching news. And since we last talked to you, just a couple days after we last talked to you, UCLA moves on from Deshaun Foster. Virginia Tech moves on from Brent Pry. Kind of what do you feel like has been the general reaction and scuttlebutt about those jobs? Do you think one's clearly better than the other? And are you all surprised we're already getting the carousel kickstarted here before week 4?
The thing that surprises me is that there's a little bit of risk involved because obviously we're only 3 games into the season. And the portal opens within 30 days of any coaching change. So you have invited the opportunity for mass exodus and then a total catastrophe if guys start making business decisions, either to take red shirts or portal or both. And fortunately, that has not happened. So I'm grateful for that. But as for the product on the field, I don't know that it could get any worse for either team. You had UCLA hosted New Mexico on a Friday night before a crowd that was probably smaller than a La Vega crowd, and got their butts kicked by New Mexico. And then the head coach of New Mexico was like, yeah, we're going to play better teams in the Mountain West. It just is what it is. And Virginia Tech was getting booed off the field by down 21-0, might have been 28-0 at home to Old Dominion. So certainly they felt like it was going to be worse before it got better. So the decision was made to move. I think there's more interest from what I've heard in Virginia Tech right now. Like there's some qualified guys that are circling around that job. UCLA, their issues are obvious. You have people asking if they even belong in the Big Ten. Should they beg their way back into the old Pac-12? The off-campus stadium is an issue and not changing anytime soon. So I think the next UCLA head coach needs to convince to people, including starting within your own university, why UCLA football matters. Yeah, convince that to the head coaches in California high school football. There's good junior college football out in California. You've got to really have contacts to work the portal, because that team might go 0-12, even if Deshaun Foster had stayed. Virginia Tech, their AD Whit Babcock has said he opened the season basically by telling his board of regents, like, guys, we need multiple tens of millions of dollars invested in this program. Things are getting much worse much quickly. But I think Virginia Tech, for one, you're in a contiguous conference. You're in a conference that makes sense. And for two, there's a lot more attainable players around you than there are, I think, at UCLA, even though the fact that it is in Los Angeles, in case you guys hadn't heard.
Yeah. But if I'm UCLA, I don't need to look far to see like what my model should be. If my biggest rival is USC and I don't know if they're even USC's biggest rival anymore, but like if you have that to compare to, you at least need to get close to what they're trying to do. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not really willing to be a competitive team in the Big Ten before you even start talking about what Michigan or Ohio State or any of those teams are spending, right?
Yeah, I think the name that I threw out there was Kenya Matalolo, who spent a few months at UCLA as a director of leadership or something like that before taking the San Jose State job. Obviously knows the area well, long time from Hawaii, coached at Hawaii, UCLA, or played in California often, recruited in California often as the head coach at Navy, knows the Mountain West well, so let's just call it what it is, knows the players that would be good to poach from those rosters to build up UCLA. There's also probably a Pat Fitzgerald conversation to be had for everything. The conversation that's going to be around him, the guy knows how to be a big-time college head coach and to do so at an academic institution. So I would bet against those two guys. I'd bet on the field, but I think I'd have those conversations with those guys and then go from there.
Yeah, interesting to already see him get kicked up, and your site a great place to go to for a lot of the other moves that are going to happen, and obviously those searches as well. Being based in Dallas, does the Iron Skillet going away after this year bring a tear to your eye? Does it register at all? How do you feel about TCU SMU for the final time for at least a little while? Who knows how long coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, it's an interesting point that Sonny Dykes made, and I credit him for playing the role of the villain in this, and that TCU is just big brothering their way out by saying, like, look, no one nationally would care about this game if it wasn't the last one. And he's probably right. We would probably talk about it, but certainly no one outside of North Texas would probably care all that much. But the fact of the matter is, in all of our lifetimes, this rivalry's never been hotter. And I looked into this when he coached his first game for TCU against SMU, and I wasn't able to find another example of college football history of a coach leaving one rival for another. And certainly if an Auburn coach had ever left to go to Alabama, we would probably know about it. So I can't say that definitively, but I looked into it and I never found another answer. So obviously the last 20 years, or for a 20-year period, TCU absolutely dominated. The last 6, it's 3-3. SMU hates TCU from top to bottom, so they want to see this game continue. So I am sad that it's going away. I'm not going to pretend that it's a top 15 rivalry, probably not even top 25 rivalry in college football, but it's football around here is better when SMU and TCU are playing. And then the other aspect of this that I haven't heard brought up is that it'd be one thing if TCU was going to leave SMU behind and go play a Florida State, a Miami, you name it. But their future non-conference games are against Stanford, Duke, Purdue. I guarantee you TCU fans would rather see SMU and rather go to SMU than play Duke, Purdue, and Stanford.
Yeah, that's true. Does Billy Napier have a job on Monday?
I think so, because I think Florida's going to win on Saturday.
Wow.
They've outplayed on a down-and-out basis. They outplayed South Florida. On a down-and-out basis, they outplayed LSU. They should have won both games. I think if DJ Lagway can just avoid the critical turnover, which his career touchdown interception ratio is 17-15, so that's a big if. But the defense and the running game are good enough to win you these games. Florida should be 3-0. I refuse to believe. I was one that thought this was a playoff team coming into the season. So I refuse to believe that they're going to go out with such a whimper. So I'm picking them to win.
All right. I'm not a believer, but
I understand. I hate my own pick, but I'm going with it.
Yeah. Look. Miami versus Florida is the hate bowl for me.
Can both teams lose, Paul?
Yeah,
that would be your choice.
Here's what I hope for. I hope everybody poops their pants. Like that's like if that's the ideal thing. It doesn't matter who wins or loses to me, just as long as whatever it is the most embarrassing thing that could happen to a human. Like that's all.
But don't you think the idea of an undefeated Miami coming to Doak Campbell in a few weeks, isn't that exciting?
I'm fired up about that possibility. Yeah. No, I think that look, I'll stick to this. The 90s were better when all three teams were good. I'll trade off any other thing. Here's the thing, and I think if you really ask people this, would you rather lose to your rivals, trade blows and lose to your rivals? So, for FSU, that's Clemson, Miami, and Florida. Would you rather rotate through losing one of those games every couple of years and then have a year where you win them all, but you're going to lose sometimes, and then never lose to anybody else? You're never going to lose to Wake Forest or NC State or anybody else. I would say, yeah, I'd take that over oh crap, we lost to UNC.
So you're one of those that does not buy at all as long as we can go 1-11, but as long as we beat our rival in the 1, then it's a great season.
No. No, I'm one who, because I've been spoiled with national championships, the good seasons end with, and the other seasons end, and I don't remember them all that much. So,
yeah, I agree with you. I don't think anybody is really like that, but I guess Ohio State tested that theory they lost to Michigan and then won the national championship, and they'll be thinking about last season for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a minority of people who just don't like Ryan Day. That's like, yeah, but we lost to Michigan, so it's not as good as the last one we beat them. Whatever. But Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com. Zach, we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. When we come back, we're going to dive into some of the bigger games of the week. We'll be fluid with Josh Neighbors and where he could wind up, but that interview will wind up on the channel either way, and you can watch it. It's always great with Josh. He's super fun. But I do want to dive into some of these big games this week. At 4:30, we have Mike Craven. He covered the Rice game last night, I believe, and Rice is 3-1, and they've got a fun, wild little option offense there, Craig.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they've made some changes down there in Houston, and they are running the triple option and having some success with it. And I think that there's long been this, opinion by people who I respect in college football. If you're a team like a Rice, where you're never going to recruit 5-star quarterbacks unless they've been through the transfer portal once or twice, you're going to have to be unique in how you win football games. And that's why you see these service academies who are winning games against big-time opponents, because they're doing these unorthodox, or at least at this point, unorthodox, styles of offense. And so I think for Rice, you can find plenty of athletes here in the state of Texas, get them in the triple option, let them loose. That's a way to be different and be difficult and win football games. And I think you're seeing that right now for the Owls.
Well, look, there is a lot of, Garrett said it earlier, there's a lot of 4 and 5A guys. Especially there's a lot of 4A guys. I'll say this, 5A guys, depending on where you are, but 4 and 5A, and those are the 6A is the biggest classification here, and 4 and 5A are the ones below it. But that are superb athletes that are excellent students, but they don't fit anything that's on the power level. And not everybody can be service academy players, right? Because those are limited.
Nor do they want to be.
Right? But you do, like, you're a smart kid who wants to go to a good school and play football and have a little fun. I think that there is here in Texas, as long as they keep doing this, there's going to be a waterfall of players he's going to get that fit.
Yeah, I don't think he'll have any shortage of talent to go after. I was really kind of disillusioned last year when most of their best players, at least offensively, when I would check out their games or look at their, write-ups and box scores afterwards, because I look at every game in the country every single weekend. At least I see every box score. I read most every story about every game, and I watch a lot of them too. But with Rice, it got frustrating because it felt like they were just trying to be like everybody else in Texas, of just like, we're going to be in the spread, right? Or they're just going to like EJ Wilner was the quarterback. He's not from here. Like, I'm not one of those of like, you're not from here, go home. Like, I'm not that at all. I know it's more of a national recruiting landscape than it's ever been, but that's for Texas and A&M and occasionally TCU and Texas Tech or Baylor. You go and grab like a D lineman out of Mississippi or something. For Rice, you do have these very strict academic qualifications, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to go find some damn athletes in the state of Texas that could run an option offense and have massive success with it. So I think Scott Abel going that route with the change they made there at head coach was really a fun and also smart decision that makes them to a point where we're talking about them. We wouldn't be talking about them if they had just done the typical quarterback throws 3 TDs and 300 plus yards and they win 35-27 or whatever the case is. This is a lot more entertaining going the option route. I love the option too. I grew up watching Nebraska's version of it under Tom Osborne, Tommy Frazier, and Scott Frost and all those guys. That was my favorite stretch of football ever, was that style. And so I'm all for doing things differently. And I think in Rice's case, like I said, it makes a lot of sense. So they're off to a really nice start right now.
Absolutely. Craig and I will dive into some of the bigger games next. This is 365 Sports.
The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium celebrating 11 incredible years, from memories of great football games and other events. Thanks to Nick Caldwell, the new general manager. Man, it looks great. We want the ultimate game experience coming up Saturday night. Arizona State, Baylor in the evening at Knox Hall. The tailgate runs throughout the day, featuring live music, family fun, complimentary tastings, Swing Waco golf simulator, and so much more. And then you could even hop on with the Waco boat tours for an exclusive tailgating experience as you, of course, head around or to McLean Stadium for the game on Saturday night. Arizona State, Baylor, so much to do, and the Baylor Club will welcome you. And again, their tailgate at the Knox Hall. And then during the week with brunch or breakfast or lunch and dinners, the Baylor Club with all the amenities and fantastic food inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990, or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling. And wrap up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. And Craig, I want to talk about something that we tried to do yesterday, but we didn't get done. It was a dry run. And it was like, the more I think about it, the more I laugh about it. It's just hilarious. We try to do our own Sports Jeopardy because we've got 3 producers here who are full of ideas and they're really enthusiastic about it. And Andrew built this great board of questions, although like a couple of them were a little like not as pointed as they needed to be. And he also didn't realize, one, that I'm like a game show nerd to the highest level, but also all of us collectively in the room didn't realize that Smokey had never seen Jeopardy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really buy that, honestly. I really don't. I think that he tries to play the old man far too often these days and act like, oh, I didn't know any better. And like, I don't buy that.
Here's the thing. I'll believe that you haven't watched a lot of Jeopardy, but it's not like if we asked him if he had watched a new show.
Yeah, no, I think there's some truth to it. I don't think he's like sat down and watched multiple episodes. I think that maybe he watched it one time in like 1987 and, then never watched it again. So he doesn't know how the rules work exactly. But yeah, Andrew had an idea to try like a Sports Jeopardy style thing. We're just coming up with new ideas, trying to keep it fresh for the audience and just do some fun stuff as well. And we test ran it, which is why you should always test run it. If you ever want an example for why you should test run things, that was an example 1A of why you need to do things and test them out first before just going, here you go. So yeah, you'll never see it. It wasn't recorded. And it was a little bit messy, and we figured it out along the way. Of like,
it's recorded.
Oh, okay. Well, don't say that, Paul, because now there's gonna be people want to see it. Duh.
It's out there. I mean,
no, it's not. It's deleted. So there you go. But it's not worth watching anyways, because we're like, along the way, we're just like, yeah, that's not good, or that would not work right, or the buzzers. And so there was a lot of issues that we'd have to work through. But it's a good idea on the surface, and it's not going to be the end of things that we try out. It just doesn't work for this setting. It's just hard to execute it the way that I think Andrew envisions and the way that we'd want to do it. So we got other ideas. We're going to keep kicking them around, but you won't see them until we nail them. And then when we do, then you'll see them. So there you go.
Yeah. The other thing, I don't think he's seen any game show because he would answer the question and then he would talk about the answer that like extra facts to it. And you're like, yeah, no. Like just answer it and go on.
He's seen some game show. Like he's, I don't know. He's not a big TV watcher. He's very much kind of checked out on a lot of stuff at this point in life. And so I can believe that he hadn't watched Jeopardy in like 20 something years, but I've watched enough to just know the rules. And I will say, I know he's watched some game show. My grandfather,
concentration. He said that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that might've been the one that my grandfather was on at one point in time. He went on to some TV show in like the 60s or 70s, and it might've been Concentration. And I think actually won some prizes. I don't remember all the details of the story. So yeah, he's had some limited experience. I don't know what route we'll take next, but we'll definitely have to educate him beforehand, because the whole, like, as we go, like, well, what about like that's not good for this segment. And we were kind of just all over the place, and it did not work the way we wanted it to, but we're hacking away at some ideas.
It had a really middle school production of Wizard of Oz first rehearsal vibe to it.
Kind of, yeah. Very rough start, or not rough start, but a rough, like like your 7th grade play where it's just kind of like, it could work, but it's not nearly where it needs to be to like actually like be it out there. But Andrew put a lot of effort into it. I appreciate him coming up with the questions. And we clearly learned that a test run's the way to go on everything. And we learned some lessons, and we'll apply those lessons, and we'll see what we come up with.
Yeah. I'm super excited. Like, of all the things, these guys, the 3 of them, we leave them in the room without us for 2 or 3 hours a day. And they, like, every time I come in here, they got something new.
No, yeah, for sure. I've encouraged that. I mean, come up with ideas. And like I said, you would tell your kids or your coworkers or your family member, whoever, like, we're a team, come up with ideas. Doesn't mean every idea is going to work, right? Like Bill Belichick had ideas for plays they should run, and then they didn't work. And he's like, all right, well, scrap those. Let's try something else. Or, whatever other example you want to give. So yeah, not everything's going to be like lift off 100% right away. So our game show aspect of this show is still a work in progress.
Absolutely. All right, Craig, let's dive into some of these marquee games. We've talked a lot about Tech and Utah, so I'm gonna wait for that one till maybe the end. But we haven't really, like, we didn't dive too much into Michigan and Nebraska. We talked about it with some of our guests, but you and I both picked Nebraska in this game, and Smokey didn't because he's battered. I mean,
he's doing the reverse psychology thing at this point of like, if I mope and am sad enough about Nebraska and just don't believe in them, that'll make it very exciting when they do win a game. And I totally understand that when you've had a team that's been,
I've been there.
Yeah. I mean, when you've had a team that's not been very good for a while, that's kind of the mentality you put yourself into. It's better than believing you're still 95 Nebraska for 25 years and being disappointed gravely, all the time. But he's kind of in that mode now where it's been so long since they've won big games that he just doesn't believe they win big games anymore. I mean, even last year we went to the game in Lincoln, first time for any of us being there, and it was awesome. Like, that is a hell of a college football experience. Stadium's great. Town's cool. Like, I loved every minute of it. It's easy to see why Nebraska's so beloved up there. But we go there, and it was a fun back and forth game with Illinois, but guess what happened at the end? They lost in excruciating fashion. It's just like, of course they did. Of course they did. So that's kind of been their MO. And I think the idea that a lot of people have, and that group, including the 2 of us, is at some point they have to win one of these big games. Like, at some point. And not just Nebraska. Matt Rule has to win one of these big games. He had a lot of success at Baylor for the 3 years that he was there. But guess what they kept doing? They kept losing to Oklahoma in the big moment. They lost to Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game, for example. And that was just kind of the caveat. There's always that big game that would be the one to get you over that hump and on the other side of it. And that's where he would fall short. But then he'd go win like 3 in a row after that. So things are great, but it's like, but you didn't beat Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And so I think with Nebraska, it's like you're winning games, but now you got to beat ranked Michigan. You got to beat ranked Ohio State on occasion. Now, maybe not Ohio State, maybe not Michigan, but, like Illinois last year, big opportunity, even though it wouldn't have set the world on fire. It was a big game for them, and you just felt that letdown. And then walking through the sea of thousands of people in red and white after that game, like, it was very quiet and just, you know how it is after a big loss, everybody filtering out. But it also just felt like that had kind of become normal for them and it being disappointed. So this is a huge opportunity for the program, for Matt Rule. And I do think Michigan is a good team, but they're not so good that this is impossible by any stretch of the imagination. And it's not like it would take a miracle for this to happen. It's like Nebraska might be just as good or even a little bit better in some spots. They're at home. They're due. He's due. Why not? Why not Nebraska tomorrow? And I know, look, we'll get into the specifics, or people can get into the specifics of why not Nebraska, but the list isn't long enough for me to think that they can't win this game tomorrow.
Yeah, no, it's not. Look, they've got they have USC, who we'll see who they are. They've got one of
USC is pretty good as of right now.
Yeah,
we think they are.
Yeah, we think they're pretty good. So USC and Penn State down the line, if they don't get this one, they have other opportunities. But this is a Michigan team that is at least young and able to be gotten right now. And so if
their head coach isn't going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
yeah, the dude who's going to be on the sideline is going to be wearing a cutoff tank,
right?
Like he's about to hit the pool. Like you've got a shot here to build some momentum against a team that is in a rebirth, so to speak, with Michigan. And they just won the national title 2 years ago. So I do think this is time. I think they match up well. I in no way do I think it's going to wind up like their games against Akron and Houston Christian, but I do think that they have some momentum on offense. They're gelling on offense and they can do some things. So I do look at this game like a chance for them to win. And I think Michigan will be a much better version of themselves later in the year than early, because they have a true freshman quarterback and they'll have their coach, and a lot of the off-field stuff about people who aren't in the program will be kind of maybe finally cleared for all that around it, and they can move on and get better.
I just think that in college football, particularly when you look at the X's and O's and the Jimmies and the Joes, all that matters greatly. But sometimes, like, this is why I do mojo rankings and not just pure power rankings, because sometimes there's these other factors that come into play, whether it be a home field advantage or just like this kind of a spirit that you garner for one reason or another, and just momentum and things like that. There's very legitimate reasons to not think Nebraska wins this game. Mm-hmm. Very legitimate reasons. Like, Michigan's got a very good defense and secondary. So this idea that Dylan Raiola is just going to go out there and start throwing it all over Michigan, that's probably not going to happen. But it's going to probably need to happen. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, Nebraska does not play particularly well against the run right now. So what's Michigan going to want to do? They're going to want to run the damn football. Mm-hmm. So you can see where those two things kind of go against the Nebraska. Like, yeah, Nebraska can win this game narrative, because maybe a couple of their strengths are not actually strengths in this game. They're Michigan strengths, right? So can Nebraska play well against the run? And can they make enough plays offensively, particularly Dylan Raiola in the air? Because I don't think they're just going to run on Michigan either. That's what will need to happen, I think, or those are at least two of the areas that I look at that could be problematic for Nebraska when you're just going matchup versus matchup. So I think it's a great opportunity and would be a massive, massive win for that program. But I would not put my next paycheck on the Huskers because of the fact that Michigan's still a good team. And also the fact that history has said that Nebraska doesn't win these types of games here lately. So, that's a very interesting one in the Big Ten tomorrow that I'm really looking forward to. We'll definitely be tuned in for that one. And I wish Matt Rule and company good luck, because I know what that would mean to him and to Nebraska fans to get a big win over Michigan, because it's been sorely – that kind of a win's been sorely needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm not sure what I think about Illinois and Indiana, mostly because to be very candid about it, I haven't watched either of them play yet this year. Now, I will watch this game on Saturday night because it's a pretty good game. But I'm very curious to see, because I think Illinois is probably the better team. Indiana's at home, and they didn't beat good teams they didn't have to beat good teams last year, Indiana, to make it into the playoff. And when they played one, they lost both times. They haven't played anybody that's really good yet this year. They kind of have they have a tougher schedule this year than they did last year, and this is the first one. So this is a bit of a proving ground game, I think, for Curt Cignetti, and can you do it again? And I think Brett Bielema's got Illinois going really, really strong.
I think Curt Cignetti's got Indiana going really, really strong. I mean, playoff appearance last year, undefeated start. Granted, the competition hasn't been great, but yeah, this is the one that I feel is like most out of my reach of just familiarity and just watching over the years. I think if you were to make a list of the teams that we're all probably pretty regional based, right? Or what we grew up watching. So Illinois, Indiana is probably like on the outskirts of the types of games that I would typically be really immersed in, but love the quarterbacks in this game. Think that both have really solid guys there behind center in Luke Altmaier, who never would have guessed when we were watching him live in New Orleans get thrust into action against Baylor in the Sugar Bowl, that here he would be, 4 years later, starting for Illinois. And then obviously Mendoza's a really nice pickup for Indiana as well. But this is a line of scrimmage game to me in a lot of ways, which I guess you could say a lot of Big Ten football is, but this is going to be a line of scrimmage type of game. And I think whoever dictates that is going to be the team that probably ultimately wins this game. I would be shocked by some type of blowout scenario on either side. I do think Indiana's a bit unproven at this point. Illinois got a little bit more of maybe like a skin on the wall in comparison. But yeah, this is one, like I said earlier in the week, I probably feel the least confident about, because I feel like the least knowledgeable about it, even though I've tried to like really get into the dirty details of it. I picked Illinois the other day, but it is in Bloomington, and I kind of started to regret that pick immediately as I made it, honestly. So it was kind of a coin flip for me, this game, but I'm looking forward to it, because I do think that whoever wins this game obviously is going to be a really good position on the other side of it come Saturday night. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I left some space for this one, Craig, because I know you have thoughts. Auburn at OU. OU is clicking in a way they haven't in several years, and that is due in the largest part to John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle. Their defense is pretty good. They're a little banged up along the O-line. I think they've got one guy who's questionable this week. I can't remember who that is. They got a few guys that last I looked were questionable. Now, questionable doesn't mean they're not playing, but they had more than a couple guys that I think were on the injury list at least at one point this week. I've not looked today, and I don't know what day is it? It's Friday. I don't remember if I looked yesterday or not, but I know at one point there was some questions about who would be available. Yeah. So your thoughts on this game? I think because it's in Norman, Oklahoma wins. I think that they can keep Jackson Arnold fairly one-dimensional and force them to have to do things. But look, I think Jackson Arnold's probably never going to be more inspired to play in a game in his life just because he's playing against his former team. Sure. I mean, if you're not up for this one, then what game would you possibly ever get up for if you're Jackson Arnold? So I think it's a huge prove-it opportunity for him returning to Norman as the enemy. Although I'm sure there's probably some bad blood there. I've not really tried to dive too deep into the whole parting of ways. Like we sort of talked about it the other day, or maybe that was yesterday too. Again, don't know what day it is. But I don't think it's like a super chip on the shoulder type of thing as far as there being animosity. I do think it's a definite chip on the shoulder for Jackson Arnold, though. I mean, personally, it has to be. Why wouldn't it be to go back to your former school where they were seemingly you were ready to get out of there. They were ready for you to get out of there. They love their new quarterback. You've heard about him. If you watched any college football, you've seen plenty of highlights. Auburn seems pretty thrilled as well because compared to what they've had recently, Jackson Arnold's a hell of a fun upgrade. Now, there's still the jury out on how effective he can be in the passing game on a consistent basis. And I think that's where I favor Oklahoma. I've seen Auburn obviously in person at this point. I've watched every OU game. I think Oklahoma's defense is really good against the run. They're good on the back end. And I think that it's gonna be difficult for Auburn, especially if Jackson Arnold's not able to just kind of let her rip. And sure, they have great receivers and a strong run game, of course, but that's a fun matchup, I think, is Jackson Arnold in that offense versus a very stout Brent Venables-led Oklahoma defense. I'm looking forward to how Hugh Freeze and company try to let the points loose against OU. But then on the other side, obviously Auburn's solid. defensively. Always will be. The years where they're not, it's like, what the hell's going on here? But Mateer is just such an X factor, man. I mean, he really is. Now, their run game leaves a lot to be desired at this point, especially if you take him out of it. Then there's barely a run game. Although they got a little freshman in Torrey Blaylock, who might have a little something special to him. We'll see. But yeah, there's something left to be desired there. But the passing game's been on point. Mateer's a fun guy to get you out of jams, and I just love the way that he plays. It's cool to see this guy I watched at Wazoo just light it up in what was formerly Pac-12 After Dark, or I guess still technically was last year for Wazoo, but really fun. Kind of like right now people are watching Jaren Kiabe-Sangapolutele, and they're watching him like Saturday night at like 11:30 p.m. because that's when the Cal game's on. That's what Mateer was.
Yeah.
It's like, are y'all watching this freaking Mateer kid up in Pullman? He's ridiculous. So it's cool to see him on a national stage, and that's something I do love about the transfer portal. It's like he wouldn't have had that opportunity in years past. So I know it sucks for the Cougs, and yeah, it benefits my team, but I would say this if he was at like, Georgia as well. It is cool that guys do have the opportunity to further amplify and bolster their opportunities if they are good enough to be able to do so. So he's definitely a guy that so far has proven he's been good enough for that opportunity. I think he'll continue to prove that on Saturday. He's not a perfect quarterback, but I'll take him over Jackson Arnold in that square QB versus QB matchup. And I think there's more that I like about Oklahoma right now than I do about Auburn. But yeah, I think this will be feisty for sure.
Yeah, I think that if Oklahoma finds a way to get some of those running backs involved to a higher level, and they've got some guys who are good players. I mean, like Jaden Ott, we haven't even seen him yet.
Well, he's like basically a non-factor. I mean, like we need to stop even bringing him up for the foreseeable future until he gives us a reason to bring him up.
And bringing him up. Yeah, I thought at least in the kick return game we'd have seen him by now. Because he was electric at that. But they're not deficient at that position. I don't think. I think might be more of a who fits. Like I really like Torrey Blaylock. I mean, I'm like but. They haven't run the ball with the running backs all that well yet. I think that's probably more of an offensive line thing than the running back thing. But we'll see. They've come together and, started to do really, really well. By the way, thank you for Gavin Sawchuk. I never.
Yeah, you're welcome. I was totally in charge of that. No, there's some areas where Auburn's wide receivers could be problematic. I don't think OU's corners are like shut down guys by any means. I do think on the back end, like including the safeties, they're solid. But there's reason to believe that an Eric Singleton could have a big day, for example. But again, Jackson Arnold throwing around the football, right? Like you have the receivers, but is he going to be able to hit those throws? And if so, then that would bode well for Auburn. But yeah, this is a really intriguing game. I like OU at home. I like Mateer and what he's been doing so far. So I'll roll with the Sooners there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, when we come back, Mike Craven, Dave Campbell's Texas Football. This is 365 Sports.
Right now, man, September, they are rolling at Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, Fiat in Waco. Through the rest of September, 0% APR for 72 months on the unstoppable 2025 Ram 1500. That's zero interest for 6 years on a truck that's built to do it all. But hurry up. The month ends. This offer will be done. 0% APR for 72 months on the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee L. That's right, 3 rows, 0 interest, and all the Jeep capability you know and love. Room for everyone, power for everything at Allen Samuels in Waco. There's the all-new 2026 Ram 1500 at Allen Samuels in Waco for a limited time. Get 0% APR for 60 months, plus a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. That's power, protection, performance, and an unbeatable deal. And the 2025 Jeep Wagoneer S or Dodge Charger Daytona. Claim up to $7,500 federal tax incentive, but hurry, the federal tax incentive expires September 30th. All at Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Ted Teague, CEO and General Manager David Gray in charge of the sales department. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
.65 Sports, Paul Craig and Mike Craven. Dave Campbell's Texas football with us. Mike, I want to start out talking about the Rice Owls and the very wise decision, pun intended, by the Owls to have a service academy mentality when it came to selecting a coach with an offensive system that they can actually replenish. And so far, so good. They're 3-1, and it's paid off for them.
Yeah, when they, moved on from Mike Bloomgren and wanted a new head coach, they wanted somebody who had a unique offensive system and somebody who had won at kind of private academic institutions like Rice. And Scott Abel immediately jumped to the top of the list as a fun, interesting offense. It's the triple option, but he will be very quick to point out it's not the Army or Navy type of triple option. He kind of compares it more to early Chip Kelly at Oregon, the gun choice stuff. And so he thinks that it's an exciting brand of football. He's won at places that typically don't win because of academic standards before. And they think they can bring that to Rice and through a month. So far, so good.
Mike, we had somebody on earlier who was asking, just like kind of thinking out loud of like, is this the biggest Texas Tech game since they went up to Norman in 2008? And that did not work out well for them. And off top of mind, I don't feel well versed enough in Texas Tech to remember if there was some game in like 2015 that was a big one. But how big is this game against Utah coming up in Salt Lake City, in your opinion, tomorrow?
It feels pretty huge. I think the winner of this football game becomes the favorite to win the Big 12. Obviously has an inside track to get to Arlington and play for that, which now comes for a college football playoff spot. And I think everybody knows the statistics by this point. Like Texas Tech hasn't won an outright conference championship since they were in the Border Conference in 1955. So they're trying to make the ceiling the floor. With their resources, what used to be a great season at Texas Tech, I think now would be a disappointment, and that would include 9-3. And if you look at their schedule, they have a few road games that are going to be tough, and this is the first one if there's been a thing like a knock against McGuire so far as a head coach at the collegiate level, is they've not been great on the road. I think they're 6-11 coming into this year on the road, and they haven't been all that great in September. And so this has an opportunity to kind of right those wrongs and have proof positive, or like a proof of concept of those resources. So they invested heavily along the offensive and defensive line, and what better test to see if you hit correctly than to go up against Utah on the road and match those guys in the trenches.
So I've noticed as of late, especially with his very nice start, Behren Morton, they're kind of playing like the chip on the shoulder card with him. And you think about it, like, yeah, I can see where they're coming from with that. What do you think about, like, I guess kind of the overall opinion on Behren Morton, the way he's played thus far this year, and how much do you think that like the him versus Dampier dynamic plays into the outcome tomorrow?
Yeah, I think Morton kind of gets looked over, specifically, in this state when we're talking quarterback. I mean, it's a loaded year of quarterback. Sawyer Robertson got a lot of press. Obviously, Arch Manning down in Austin, but you got, Kevin Jennings and Josh Hoover and Marcel Reed and Connor Wigman and, Malachi Nelson. You can go down the list. I think Morton, because of the injury history, missing a couple springs, having the shoulder questions, kind of being in and out of the lineup at times, has clouded how good he's been. I think Mac Leftwich, their new offensive coordinator, is a super good play caller who's been he's a quarterback at UTEP, knows that position. And so I think the best is in front of Morton. There's just always going to be the worry of, can he sustain it? Can he hold up for a full season? He got dinged up in week 1 and has been able to come back. So as long as he's healthy, I think Texas Tech has a chance to win the Big 12. And he's always had NFL talent. Like, you got to remember, Texas Tech, this is the previous staff, but Texas Tech chose Behren Morton over Sawyer Robertson.
Right.
Like, they were both in that same class. Robertson is going to school with Lubbock Coronado. His dad is an alum there, and they went with Behren Morton, the Matt Wells staff, because they really believed in him. I think he's got a lot of talent, and he's got a chance to put it together now, I think, with a really good team.
Sawyer Robertson has his own big game this week with Arizona State, the defending conference champs, coming into town. What do you think about the Bears in the Sun Devils this week in a game that, like, neither defense has been really, really tough yet. Baylor's just not been good really quite at all yet. But this one, I mean, it's got two good quarterbacks. It's got all the makings of a really classic Big 12 game. They're not ranked, but that's just because they've both taken early losses. They both could be ranked by the end of the year if they both keep on good tracks.
Yeah, I guess my question would be, if you're a Baylor fan, how much do you think your offense has to score to win this football game? Like, if I walk up to a Baylor fan and I say, Baylor scores 31 points on Saturday night, do you win or lose? I think a lot of them probably choose lose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I think that's my question with the Bears. They always say defense travels, and you can be more consistent on that side of the ball. Like, you're going to ask that offense to be great 12 games in a row. They were good against Auburn, not so great in the red zone, but they have to be that efficient. They have to score almost every single drive. Arizona State's kind of in a similar situation. So, yeah, I like you said, I think it's going to be kind of a classic Big 12, maybe the last team to have the ball wins. I think it'll look a lot like the SMU Baylor game. I think Baylor's going to have to be in a bunch of those type of games, and is that good when you're in year 6 of a defensive head coach?
Does it feel like it's a different Texas A&M now post Notre Dame than the A&M we were talking about prior to that for a while?
I think so, and it's because Mike Elko is just impervious to that stuff. I think he was a great hire for them. I think he's great for the culture. He's exactly what they needed post Jimbo Fisher. I think we've talked about that before. And his confidence and his, he just doesn't care about the history of it, right? Like, he was at the Houston Touchdown Club, and they asked him about, like, the Aggie battered syndrome, and he kind of just dismissed it as, like, guys, will you cut it out and just be excited for what we're doing on this football field? And so the passing game has been great. They went into the portal and got 2 really good wide receivers that have been awesome so far. It looks like Marcel Reed has really taken a step forward, and they're just asking him to do what he does best. Like, he was under 50% completions against Notre Dame. He still played a great game. So I think A&M, maybe this ends up being something more about Notre Dame. Maybe we look back on this game and it's like Notre Dame wasn't as good as we thought they were, but that's typically a game the Aggies go and lose, and they win and won it. And I think that should be celebrated if you're an Aggie fan.
How many alarms should be going off about Arch Manning so far?
A few. You know, you leave the shoe against Ohio State, and it's very easy to chalk that one up to who you're playing against. Really good defensive coordinator who's been in the NFL and knows how to confuse quarterbacks. You know, you obviously are going to have talent on Ohio State. It's just very easy to be like, well, you know, he had a bad game, first true road start. Like, you know, he's got 3 weeks to figure it out before they go play in the SEC. Well, 2 of those 3 weeks are done. Like, the get-right games are almost past. Sam Houston's about as bad as you get. And so we'll see how he looks Saturday. But if they don't move the ball well against the Bearcats and this offense, especially through the air, continues to struggle against Sam Houston, then I just think that's what it's going to be this year. And we have to recalibrate what we think Texas is based on what that offense is instead of what we think it could have been.
I know this is not a big national headline, the Iron Skillet, TCU, SMU, last matchup going on for a while. But what's more controversial to you, the ending of this rivalry or SMU distancing itself from Pony Up?
Both seem like own goals that don't need to happen. I guess I'll go with the Iron Skillet just because the Pony Up doesn't impact me too much. I'm of the opinion that college football was made great because of the regional rivalry. Like, the fun part of the sport to me was rooting for a team that may be different than my best friend rooted for, or my uncle rooted for, or my cousin, or whoever I see in daily life. And a game that's happened 104 times, has a name, and has a skillet, like has a trophy, probably deserves playing. And it shouldn't be lost because a team wants 7 home games and they'd rather, you know, schedule the cupcake to make their resume look better, or for the head coach to not have to go back to his old stomping grounds and maybe catch some flack. And, you know, I think those are the reasons this game is going away, and that's a shame. I think it eventually comes back, but it didn't have to come to this. And, you know, I think as SMU moved up to the Power 4 level, all the reasons TCU had to get rid of the game went away.
Mike, I'll make a prediction that it probably comes back quicker than TCU anticipated, in that SMU, based on whatever the ACC does, trying to get to 8+2 or 9+1 to get 10 Power 4 games on the schedule, that one's a pretty easy one to get on, considering that half the members of SMU's conference will already have somebody that they have a rivalry with, that they've played for as many years as the Iron Skillet's been going on. So I do think that because of the ACC scheduling, it's got a great shot to come back, because SMU is going to need something that's pretty easy to fill. And if they can get TCU to back off their, what I think are silly reasons for not playing it, then that works out for everybody.
Yeah, I do think this is a one-sided breakup, you know, so SMU would make it work no matter what, even without any new scheduling rules. Like, SMU wants to keep playing the football game. It's TCU that doesn't. And so maybe public perception, I mean, I've seen a lot more articles. Like, I've been writing about this for a couple of years, like this coming, that this is going away and it shouldn't. You know, but it feels like a lot of like more national sites have written about it this week. And so maybe public perception kind of pushes a new athletic director to put it on the schedule. But I was there with my buddy, you know, this spring when I was going around to do the summer magazine, and I asked him about the game, and he said, you know, the head coach has a lot of say in who we're going to schedule, and I don't think there's a huge appetite right now between, you know, within our fan base and, you know, within the coaching staff to play it. And unless that changes, I just don't think we see it in the short term. I think it does come back. I just don't know if we see it over the next few years, because it's so ridiculous that they schedule these things like 10 years out. But we'll see.
Well, we found out in COVID, it wasn't as hard as they were making it.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, it just was not as hard as they were making it. Do you have a prediction on Tech in Utah? Do they get it done?
That's a $1 million question, right? I'd have a bigger house if I could figure that kind of stuff out. Yeah, I want to see the Tech defense handle this type of physicality on the road before I would bet on it. I think it's priced pretty well. It seems like it would be a coin flip game if not for it being in Utah. That's typically a tough place to play, but the good draw for the Red Raiders is at 10 a.m. local time. I do think That is pretty significant. I guess I'm leaning Utah here because of their offensive line and the fact that they're playing at home, but Tech has looked so good. I don't know. If it's a blowout, I think Tech wins. I think Utah could win in the dogfight. I'll take the home team here because it's the Big 12, and I have no idea.
Mike Craven, thanks for hopping on, buddy. Always great to hear from you, and thanks for committing later in the day. We certainly appreciate it whenever we can get you. Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate you guys.
It's Mike Craven, Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Next up, Josh Neighbors' College Countdown, and then we'll follow that up with John Wilner of the Wilner Hotline. This is 365 Sports. Welcome in, 365 Sports. Josh Neighbors moved his time up for me today. College Countdown, the host of that show, and you should go and subscribe and like it after his workout, and from a different locale. So if people are concerned that something's happened to Josh and he had to run into a stranger's house and still do the interview, that didn't happen. It's just I'm
on the floor. I'm on the floor.
He did a favor for me, and so which I certainly appreciate because we have some stuff today. So Josh, this is I know last week I heard people saying oh, maybe this weekend isn't very good. I think it's great when you've got Texas Tech and Utah and Auburn and Oklahoma and the Iron Skillet, Baylor and Arizona State. This is chock full of some really, really good games. And then there's, some other things going on, coaching circle wise that become important. Miami and Florida play this week. And that could very likely be the last game that Billy Napier is the coach, if it's as bad as it could be. And that would kick off the coaching cycle in a crazy way. So let's start talking about the coaching cycle. Then we'll get into games this week. But I've asked this of a couple guests this week, and I'm kind of taking a survey. If you were, and it's different answers. Cost of living is not an option. It's not a thing in this. Salary is the same. The power is the same. The everything you're going to get everything you want at either school. Would you rather be coaching in Blacksburg or in Los Angeles?
This is this is totally personal preference because, yes. I'll tell you what, the support of Virginia Tech is there. As somebody who grew up in that area, I know it pretty well. It is there. I know some folks around, not in the program, but who are around the program. I mean, I've been going to games my entire life. My grandparents were season ticket holders for 43 years. My first game was a Virginia Tech game. There was a point, and I don't really know what it was in Whit Babcock's tenure, where some people were just he just wouldn't really listen. He wasn't listening enough to other people. And I think Virginia Tech is suffering somewhat from what Nebraska suffered from. I mean, there's better athletes in the Virginia area, but everybody's on TV now, and their brand wasn't as good. And they started losing to teams. It's just Virginia Tech's not what it meant growing up. You know how it's a game day wasn't the same. Game day's not the same because they weren't going to. They didn't go to Virginia Tech games. It's kind of they just those two things. It's I remember on Thursday nights. Matt Ryan in Boston College top 5 faces off against Virginia Tech. We used to have proper Thursday night games.
Yeah.
It's fallen off, and UCLA they just don't care though. So the people care more at Tech because there's just more to do at UCLA. And it's a basketball school first. Now you're in the Big Ten and it's Los Angeles. So there is that advantage. But I mean, if you want a fan base that can be invested, and it's not like Tech's not broke. Tech is not a school where it's just they don't have wealthy donors. They do. So I would say Virginia Tech, I just because I think they care more. I think there's more there's a lot to do in LA. But this is beach first mountains. It's redneck versus my dad's from the area, so it's a bit more it's conservative, and then obviously Los Angeles is a lot more liberal. It really is a lifestyle thing. It is. But as somebody who's I was born on the West Coast, I actually is a bit more left to center. I would say that I would still Tech. Even despite my politics, whatever, the people care more, and football's football, and so I think it's a better opportunity.
Yeah, that's look, I'm more left to center like you are. Politically, I'm also not dyed to the wool anything. So me too.
I mean, all my best friends are Republicans, so it's
so it's it is what it is. But I just want to go to a place where I know that if I work hard, that the people in charge are going to get excited and care. And I don't think that any of the last maybe 5 to 6 UCLA coaches have that. I don't think they care. Look, they play in the Rose Bowl, which is an hour drive in traffic.
A disaster.
Yeah.
The Pasadena is a disaster getting to. Yeah.
Pasadena and Bel Air are close in that they're both in the greater Los Angeles area. Like that's it. But if you just take any, like if you live in a big city and you haven't been to LA, think of it like, oh, well, this is cool. Like your friend comes and says, hey, we're staying here. Can you come and see us? We're visiting town. And it's an hour away. And you're like, well, I mean, we'll come and see you. But like when you get in the car, you're going to be like, crap.
Yeah.
Like,
God, what have I done?
I wish they would could they have stayed closer? I don't care that their Airbnb is by the water.
Right. Doesn't matter to me at all.
Those kind of things. Like,
totally.
So you just, that's how it is. And so if you're talking about filling that stadium up, which is one of the biggest stadiums in the country. If you're talking about filling that up, 7 to 8 Saturdays a year that aren't the Rose Bowl, that's hard anyway. That's hard anyway.
Paul, do you have any good UCLA football memories? I mean,
here's the one.
Am I missing something? I'm trying to think. I don't have any.
This is just because I am 45 and a Cowboys fan. I remember Troy Aikman's Cotton Bowl win. And at that time, the Cowboys had the number 1 pick. Jerry was in attendance at the game, and it was pretty clear. Like they were talking about it. What I remember it is they're like, he will likely be the Cowboys quarterback. I think it was Vern Lundquist on the game. He was like, Jerry Jones is here. Troy Aikman is the quarterback. He is probably playing in Dallas. Like he's going to be their quarterback more than likely. And that's what I remember about that.
Who's the last really good UCLA football player?
DTR.
Yeah, I was going to say DTR. I remember Anthony Barr I think it was Anthony Barr.
Yeah.
He was really good. Miles Jack, I think.
Latu from last year. But like as far as somebody who's made this, like Maurice Jones-Drew, that people know, like that's what it is. They don't have the history because they just don't care as much. And to me, that's what I'd be like, and look, now it's not only like you have to take care of me and my coaches. I need money to go get players. And if you're spending less, then like you've got to at least match USC. Like if we want to be competitive, all you need to do is just match, like what is their budget? Get me as close as you can. But they're not even trying to do that. And that's why it would, like Virginia Tech's not sitting there going like, well, okay, well, we're probably not going to outspend Clemson and Florida State and Miami, but we can probably get close. Like we can get close enough to where, we could be competitive because people care enough if you start winning.
Right. I mean, Tech is close enough to like DC. My hair's going crazy right now. Tech's close enough to DC. Yeah, that workout area. Oh my God, we're losing our minds here, guys. Tech's close enough to DC to where that's good. But it's not really a it's kind of its own thing. Also, my brother toured UCLA. I remember going there and going to the Rose Bowl was not a priority. Going to Poly Pavilion was a priority. We got into Poly Pavilion. It was really, really cool. It was empty. It was really awesome. But nobody wants to go play in the Rose Bowl when it's empty. Like you want to play in the Rose Bowl. You don't want to play in the Rose Bowl. You know what I mean? You want to play in the game, not the stadium. So they don't have a lot going for. But once again, Eric Musselman wanted to go to USC over Arkansas, and to me, Arkansas is a much better job than USC for basketball because. USC football is higher in the pecking order than USC basketball, and USC football is not what it was in the Los Angeles sports pecking order anymore. So, it's all about preference, right? He just wanted to be a West Coast guy, and I'm sure he's much happier in Los Angeles than he was in Fayetteville. So, it's a preference thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Billy Napier could be in the water. The Florida job could be in the water. Billy Napier would be unemployed, and he'd go get an assistant job somewhere and sure be fine if he wanted. And he'll have a nice buyout to wait out. But I don't anticipate seeing him back in Gainesville next season. Just based on what we've seen, nothing's changed. They hit a nice groove when DJ Lagway took over last year, but ultimately the schedule wound up being a little bit easier than it probably was at the beginning. This year, that's flipped on them. The same schedule is now there to eat them alive. That job will set the standard for every other job that comes open. And if it comes open in the next 2 to 3 weeks, Do you think there'll be just a crazy ass coaching cycle?
Oh, well, also, I want to acknowledge there's two things happening. There's two teams on Florida. There's Florida's offense, there's Florida's defense.
Yeah.
Florida's defense has been nasty. Yeah. They gave up 18 points to USF, and then they gave up
13.
13, right? Because it's pick six. So, and that was that game? That game was on the road, too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, what else do you want, back-to-back weeks? 30, yeah, it ends up being, whatever, it's 31 points or whatever total in 2 weeks against ranked teams. So, that's happening. Their offense is atrocious. Yeah, I guess we're hitting the point now where it's like you're gonna have to go early. It's like early signing day. It's like 99% of the coach, 99% of the guys sign early. The teams are gonna have to start going early because candidates you might want. These ADs have lists. I can guarantee you, Arkansas Hunter Yurchek's got a list. At Virginia Tech, they had a list before. Who is the Florida AD? Is it Scott Woodward? Who is it?
Scott Strickland.
Scott Strickland. Yes, it's Scott Woodward. Yeah, Scott Strickland. Although I've heard they might not let him make the next hire. I don't know, whatever's happening. But, they tried to pull Lane and they didn't get Lane. Teams now have the resources to keep guys like that. So I'd be interested to think what their big thought is. Are they going to go let's try to get Urban Meyer back, which I don't think is a good idea. Or do they go the flip side, which is the Alex Galesh route, which or do they try to pull somebody? They go to maybe Eli Drinkwitz is too much. They just have it. They go for a Drinkwitz. Who's had who's building sustained success and is playing against them. So, but yeah, I don't know. Is Florida in such a different weight class that it wouldn't impact the Virginia Techs of the world? Is it kind of two separate deals happening? I'd be curious to ask that, to see how that question gets answered. Because Florida's going to be hunting for candidates that Tech and UCLA are not hunting for. And I don't know, are any other big time jobs going to open anytime soon? I don't see another big job. I was talking about some of this the other day. Hugh Freeze seems relatively safe at the moment at Auburn, and I can't think of any other SEC job. It's on the ropes.
One thing I think could happen, though, when you have a big job like Florida is you get big boosters that get trigger happy because they're like, oh, no, they got rid of their guy that they don't like. We only like our guy a little bit more than they hated Billy Napier.
Right.
So let's just go ahead and cut the cord right now and get in this cycle so that they don't get the guy that we want to get. That's where a job like Florida throws things off. Now, I think Oklahoma State is probably likely to be open too, because, if you I think they'll beat Tulsa, but if I black out from this point on, woke up tomorrow morning and you called me and said, hey, Paul, Tulsa won the game, I'd be like, oh, yeah, that tracks.
2 years ago, they got beat by South Alabama by 28 at home. So, that was also the team that went to the Big 12 championship game, I believe. So, that's a cook situation. Gundy's not.
I'd be like, oh, what did I miss, Josh? What did I miss?
Yeah,
and you'd be like, Tulsa won, and I'd be like, oh, well, I guess I slept well,
Yeah.
All right. I was scared until
I got my 8 hours last night. Nice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, Tech in Utah, one of the diamond games of this week. Big noon kickoff is there. It is a big moment for each team. Potentially a little bigger for Tech because Utah's recently been a conference champion, albeit not in the conference that they're currently in. Tech has not recently been a conference champion. Recent is relative to the whole era of time and space for Texas Tech. They have made these moves. They are announcing themselves in the scene. I don't think if they lose a close game here, it's an indictment on the program. But if they win it, this is finally a point where they can take a big step out and said, yes, we are here. We are beating good teams. And they've shredded the teams early in the season, which they haven't done before, that they can really announce their presence in the Big 12 if they win on Saturday.
Yeah, it would be, significance, not it's a landmark win. It's a tentpole win. And look, wins like this are going to come for them. I just think they want them to start coming now because like roster building and team construction is a year in, year out deal. Texas has become a powerhouse because they're identifying, they're getting the guys. But like this year, I don't know the last 4 defensive tackles they had if they were all recruited by Sark, but I think 3 of them were. These guys, they went transfers on a couple of them and they hit. So like Tech's not really doing the assessment thing. I think Tech's also kind of doing a little bit of the A&M, like we're trying to achieve a certain recruiting status as well, which I don't think is a bad thing, but like, if they're not looking as hard at the players, just kind of get as many blue chips as possible. But they have a chance now, and but I think the problem here is that I don't like unproven team, unproven coach, unproven quarterback, unproven defense going on the road against proven coach and proven environment. I know it's noon. I know it's 10 a.m. Central Time. I think I'd easily win the game, but it just feels like that. Like it needs to be like you want this game at home as opposed to on the road.
Yeah.
I think they're ready, but I think their defense is better. I can never trust Tech teams. Like I hate the fact that every single year I say I want to see a defense, and I hate it keeps being right because I love their fan base and I want them to be good. But like, damn it, fellas, show me a defense.
I'm at the same point, and I think their fans are probably a little bit at the same point of like, come on, like like they feel that they can feel it. They just want to see it. I picked Utah in the game just because Utah's at home. Yeah, and Rice Eccles is no picnic. So, all right, rapid fire, real quick. Just give me your pick: Iron Skillet, SMU, or TCU?
TCU.
Okay. Nebraska or Michigan?
Michigan.
Okay, I picked Nebraska in that one. Let's see.
That would be the biggest win of what's his face of Matt Rule's tenure, don't you think?
Yeah, it would be the biggest win of his career.
Yeah,
biggest win of his career by far. Anywhere he's been. South Carolina and your alma mater.
Oh, MIZ, brother.
Yeah. Lenore Sell is likely to play. Illinois and Indiana.
I don't know. Indiana.
Arizona State and Baylor. Last one.
Baylor.
Okay. I picked Arizona. Look, and maybe it's just because I'm close to it. I picked Arizona State. Baylor's defense has to prove to me that they can stop a running back.
They suck. But you know that I tell you what.
Sawyer Robertson, buddy.
That's probably your number 1 pick right there. Like that kid is talk about like income. It's like watching a golfer. It's like Scotty Scheffler when he's at his best. Sawyer Robertson is in command of everything has slowed down for him. It's totally moving at a slow pace, and he's just I mean a super.
So I want to say it would have been 2 years ago, Garrett, 2 or 3 springs ago, when he first got here.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago when he first got here in spring football, Blake Shapen was still here, and I knew that Blake Shapen was going to wind up being the starter because you could tell out there that he just had a command of the system far better than Sawyer did. And I mean, that was obvious. And so you knew he was going to wait a year. But I did know, I knew at the moment, I said, if this kid is healthy and ready to go at any point, he's not giving up the job. And that's finally what happened last year because he went through 2 years of ankle injuries and a shoulder deal that really slowed him down. I think it was a shoulder or something like that. But now that he is healthy and in control,
this happens a lot.
Gary, you remember that spring game? It was It was like you're watching it and you're like, okay, well, Blake Shapen's fine and all, but
Sawyer's
the
different.
Ball,
he's got more talent and he had the same level of command. You know what I mean?
It was just he was like, I've just been here for 3 weeks.
Yeah, we talked to a D2 coach last week who told us about the Ole Miss backup Trinidad Chambliss. He's the best player they played against, and he's a national championship winning coach. And he said, everybody, if that kid gets a job, he said he ain't giving it back. And he went out there and threw for 350 yards in his first game. It looked like he was just in command, in control. And guys get old and they're like, I've been playing these games for too long to not be in control.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's time I grab the car keys.
And he's starting again this week because Austin Simmons isn't back. So there we go. All right, Josh Neighbors, College Countdown Podcast. Love you, buddy.
See you guys.
All right, that's Josh Neighbors. We've got more coming up. This is 365 Sports.
A lot of you know, and I have discussed this sometimes just trading messages in the chat room. Some of you have had back problems or shoulder problems or neck problems, or maybe it's your knee, some kind of ligament or muscle or something that you cannot get through. And if you need a better look, and if you haven't had a better look or you need another one, Ideal MRI in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco will get you the evidence. And for your doctor and orthopedic surgeon, what they need to see. For example, why is my lower back all gnarled up? They can tell me where it is and what it creates. Or maybe it's a ligament in your knee. Hope not. Or maybe your shoulder. I've had most everything looked at with Ideal MRI or at Ideal MRI, except for my knee, and knock on wood, that won't have to be the case. And it's only $497 or less every single time. State-of-the-art imaging machine. What a great company with Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners at IdealMRI.com.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved, learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. Good friend of the show, John Wilner, Wilner Hotline. And John, this is in your world, which is the new Pac-12, the former Pac-12, and the Big 12. This is a busy week with Texas Tech and Utah and, you know, all the things that are going on there. And then, of course, the opening at UCLA. You have been pretty adamant on Twitter about, you know, certain things that people need to know, like, hey, they should build an on-campus stadium. Well, the expensive real estate in Bel Air probably prevents them from doing that, given the fact that nobody, people will buy other people's houses because their trees are in the way in that corner of the world. And UCLA decided 20 years ago that football wasn't really their deal. So where does this go at UCLA?
I think that's the big question. They need to decide where it's going to go before they can actually start, creating a list of candidates. UCLA needs to decide. It's a basketball school. They last won a championship in football in 1998. They've had a lot of mediocre seasons and a few pretty good ones. They need to decide how good do they want to be and what's it going to take. Do they want to compete for playoff berths and the Big Ten title? Are they willing to invest at the level that Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, and USC are? Or does UCLA want to be Minnesota, and 7-5, 8-4, go to a middle level poll? I don't think they can go out and hire a coach until they get those things figured out, because the coaches are going to want to know what's the commitment level from the institution, what's the funding level, what's the NIL game. All those things have to be solved. Is there going to be a general manager? What's the football support staff look like? What is the future of an on-campus facility or not? They got to figure all that out before they can go hire a coach, I think. And it's a complicated issue. The current chancellor's been on the job for 9 months, 8 months. I don't think he's going to be there very long. He's old. The previous chancellor didn't care about football. They've got budget issues that have been well documented. There's a lot there going on there that they got to solve first. And I think that these 2.5 months will be very valuable for them, because they're not going to hire a good candidate unless they can answer those questions.
Are you surprised by how quickly and the timing of how the whole Deshaun Foster era came to an end?
I'm not. I mean, I thought it was a questionable hire from the start, never been a coordinator even. And then, his performance at Big Ten Media Day in Indianapolis in 2024, when he got up there and he was just kind of frozen, that was a real window into the situation. That was a guy who was not ready for the job. Right? There's a lot of great coaches that aren't good with the media, but that was a coach who just wasn't ready for the stage. And I thought that it kind of reflected what we saw on the field over the course of 15 games. That New Mexico, that was arguably the worst loss they've ever had, I would say, in the modern era of UCLA football. They had no choice, I don't think, but to make a change immediately. They were not going to sell a single ticket to another game in which Deshaun Foster was coaching that team. They were not going to raise another dollar. They had to do something. That was it was beyond atrocious.
John, is it kind of peculiar to have a job that is the name school like UCLA in Los Angeles, which is talent rich and all of that, and it doesn't feel like there is a parade of guys that didn't go to UCLA that would want this job?
So the way I look at it is, in the whole sweep of potential candidates, so head coaches, coordinators, coaches who are kind of maybe out of a job right now, NFL coordinators, of that entire spectrum, I would say the UCLA job is not viewed positively by 60, 70% for a lot of reasons. Institutional commitment, living in LA, the cost of living, the lack of support, the off-campus stadium, the difficult path into the CFP through the Big Ten. But then there's about 30, 35% who I think would love that job, because they do see what UCLA has to offer. They don't mind living in Southern California. There's a lot of positive aspects. There are so many big-time players within a 2-hour drive of campus. It is the most popular university in the world in terms of applications for admissions. It has a lot to offer. And if you are convinced that the leadership is right, and I mostly mean the chancellor, and Julio Frank was at Miami before he came to UCLA. He helped move Miami forward, hiring Mario Cristobal. If you're convinced that the institution is behind you and you don't mind living in LA, then it's a great job. So, but I don't think a lot of coaches view those things as positives.
John, got 2 big rivalry games that, although they're different, Apple Cup and Civil War. They're much different looking now because of conference realignment. Obviously, Oregon State's off to an atrocious start, and then Wazoo, they start off 2-0, and then they just get crushed by North Texas last weekend. So I have a two-part question. How much kind of excitement do you feel like there still is that you're feeling out there in that part of the country for these matchups? But also, are we seeing the effects already for Wazoo and Oregon State from maybe a talent perspective already, and them not being quite up to snuff? Or maybe is it a coaching situation? Kind of how do you view where those two sit currently?
Well, I think it's both coaching and talent, and those things are interconnected. But I think Oregon State's got a real question as to whether they hired the right guy, Trent Bray, a lot like Deshaun Foster at UCLA, former player, elevated to the position. There's not any indication yet that he's up to the task. Washington State hired Jimmy Rogers from South Dakota State, and it's his first year, 3 games, but I'm not, we'll see. And they both have talent issues. They have money issues, right? Acquiring talent these days costs money, and they don't really have a whole lot of it. So they're in it's tough sledding for both schools. And I think the interest in the rivalries is partly whether the heavyweights are going to cover those big spreads. I mean, Oregon's favored by 35 points, which I think is a record in the Civil War.
Wow.
Washington is favored by 3 touchdowns in the Apple Cup. And it's a lot of people are just wondering, are they going to be 2 just absolute beatdowns or not?
John, what are your thoughts on Utah as they take on Texas Tech this week? It's a big game for both of them. We've talked about it at length here because of Tech, and they're trying to jump on the scene. But Utah and Kyle Whittingham, this is a big one for them to say, like, hey, it's on now. Like, we've got our guy, and watch out.
It is a big one. It's interesting to me. Neither team has really played anybody. I don't know what to make of either of them. To be honest, I thought I knew what to make of Utah, and then UCLA went ahead and lost to UNLV in New Mexico. And so now I think like Utah's basically played 3 cupcakes, right? Mm-hmm. And certainly Texas Tech hasn't been challenged. So we don't really have a whole lot to go on with either team in terms of how they're going to respond to facing comparative talent, right? I tend to think that this is going to be about Utah's ability to their tackles are really good, right? Maybe the best set of tackles in the country. How are they going to hold up against Texas Tech's pass rush, especially David Bailey? Is Dampier going to have time to throw in the pocket, and is he going to be able to connect from the pocket? I don't think Utah can go down the field 4 or 5 yards at a time, incrementally moving the ball for 60 or 70 yards, possession after possession. I think Utah's got to get chunk yards with Dampier thrown from the pocket, and I'm not sure he can do that. So to me, that's a big question for Utah. Texas Tech, obviously great downfield game, but Utah is going to put pressure on Tech at the line of scrimmage that it has not faced this year. It is a hard place to play, very difficult place to play. But I kind of think it may just come down evenly matched. Teams that haven't been tested, it could come down to special teams. A muff punt, a missed field goal. I think it's going to be really close. That line, to me, is right on the money. Basically, it's an even game except for the home field.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Like you said, there's such little evidence at this point, and this feels like a game we're going to have some real evidence behind it. We're gonna know more about Utah and Texas Tech when this one's wrapped up.
Yeah,
and maybe the rest of the league.
The Texas Tech Utah Oregon State game, Oregon State lost at home to Fresno. That tells us nothing about Tech.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, like a year ago, those of us who stay up late night, watch the After Dark and all of that, John Mateer was like the guy. Yeah. He was like the poster child for it. This year, it feels like it's Jaren Kiawe Sangapolotele from Cal, who people can easier say JKS out there at Cal. But kind of what little sensation do you feel like he's got going on out there in terms of just his talent, but also kind of the oomph that he's providing to the Cal Golden Bears for those who have seen it or have not seen it and need to check it out?
He can really throw the ball, and he can throw the ball very accurately downfield and put it in tight windows. he has certainly elevated Cal, and so has the ACC in some regard. Cal doesn't play Georgia Tech, Clemson, Miami, or Florida State. So, they are going to be favored or a slight underdog in every game they play the rest of the season. They have a real chance to win 8 or 9 games, I think. He is very good. They're always well coached on defense. He gives them a dimension they haven't had. Cal was on him early. He's a Hawaiian kid. Cal was on him early, got him committed last summer, and then last minute Oregon comes in with a great offer. He signs with Oregon. He joins the program, practices with the Ducks during their Rose Bowl prep, realizes the vibe was not right, and then he transfers to Cal and is enrolled and in school by January 3rd. Only something that could happen in this day and age, right? But there's a lot of talk about, he's only going to be at Cal for this season, and then he's going to go where the grass is greener and the dollars are bigger. He's already done that. He went to Oregon, realized, you know what? I want to be where I feel comfortable with the school that has recruited me the longest, the place where I have the best relationships. So I'm not sure that he's a short timer in Berkeley, because he's already done the grass is greener thing and realized that wasn't right for him. But certainly for the next 9 games, he's fun to watch, and he makes Cal a threat. I don't know if they're a threat to win the ACC, but they're certainly a threat to be one of those teams that kind of comes out of nowhere and spends most of the season in the top 25.
Yeah, I think that they've got a chance to take a chunk out of a couple good teams and put them in a must-win position, especially if you are, like you said, they don't play any of the big boys.
They don't play the big boys.
They don't play the big boys, but those ones that are trying to sneak up there that might feel good about themselves. Yeah. They could do that. USC, what have you seen that makes you think that Lincoln Riley has finally pulled the car onto the highway?
Nothing. I mean, they have looked good against 3 bad teams. I don't see how beating Purdue by, 16, 17 points. That doesn't do anything for me. I want to see USC consistently make the plays in the fourth quarter against good teams that they need to make. I want to see USC run the ball for first downs on 3rd and 3. I want to see USC tackle properly, avoid dumb penalties on defense. There's a lot out there that they got to prove to me before I think that they're going to be a real contender in the Big Ten. I think that they actually, Michigan State's going to give them a game. I think, it's not just a homecoming for Jonathan Smith, who's from Pasadena. Aiden Childs grew up in Long Beach and was not recruited by USC. And I think he is a very talented quarterback. I think Michigan State's going to go in there and give him a very good game, and we'll see how the Trojans react in the fourth quarter.
John Wilner Hotline. John, enjoy the games this weekend.
Same to you guys. Thanks for having me.
Love John Wilner. Every time he's got on the show, we learn something. So USC fans, you've not impressed Wilner yet.
Well, some of them know that. Some of them know that. Some of them are right there with him on that wavelength. I think what's been surprising for some is just Jaden Miava and how well he's played, but also to his point, who has he played kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that plays out ultimately. But 3-0 is 3-0 though, so you do feel good about that, but it's an unproven 3-0. So we'll need a lot more evidence, and we'll get a lot more evidence this weekend on a variety of things, like Utah and Tech, for example. I'm with him though, on the Utah Tech game, and I told y'all all week long I've been flip-flopping on this game. I picked Utah the 2 times we've had to go concrete, put it in stone. I do that once, and very, very rarely, if ever, will I change my mind if I get the opportunity to do so, because once the pick's in, it's locked in. But yeah, I think with that game, I feel great about Baron Morton throwing the football. I feel great about him throwing the football. I feel better about their running back situation with guys like Jacoby Williams emerging, although I think running the football against Utah is going to be a tough task. But I think you see where the offense is coming from for Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I don't know where the offense comes from Devin Dampier if he's not allowed to scramble and run around. And Baron Morton is a far superior passer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I've kind of been like, on this game. I can't bring myself to think that like Tech's just going to roll in there. But like, you know what? If they roll into Salt Lake and they beat Utah, whether it's convincingly or not, like that is a damn statement win.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a big win. I definitely continue to believe it's a bigger game for Tech because of the offseason and all the talk to put your mouth where your money is, so to speak. And to walk the walk after talking the talk. I think this is that opportunity to do that for them. And, it's equally a big opportunity for Utah. I just don't think the perception of them changes all that much one way or the other. Like, they lose this game, okay, Tech's really good, but it doesn't mean Utah's bad. And I know that the others should be the same thing. Like, if Tech loses to Utah, it doesn't mean they're bad. But because of the way they've been built up, it's like, see?
Yeah.
I thought you were running the Big 12 now. Like I thought, so like that from that standpoint, that's why I think like for Joey McGuire, kind of like Matt Rule, they're buddies. They both kind of need these wins this weekend to really put proof to concept. I feel like so. I can't wait, but yeah, I'm with him. Can Devin Dampier be effective passing the ball, or is he able to find ways to run against Tech's defense? Which, as we outlined with the Pro Football Focus stuff yesterday, like they spent. I don't know how many millions of dollars on just the foursome there at the top of that list of edge rushers and D linemen. So, it's going to be fun. I can't wait.
No, I'm excited. I think, here's the thing about Big Noon Kickoff, and like I'll just dog the Big Ten a little bit. Sometimes those games just
suck.
I mean, they do. Like, it's just.
It's Ohio State versus Ohio.
Yeah.
No disrespect. I don't even want to name names because I feel like we just dog teams. But yeah.
Also, like Ohio State is the most boring, excellent team you've ever seen.
Yes.
Like they are.
In a lot of ways.
And that's a compliment. But when I find myself like midway through the second quarter and Jeremiah Smith only caught 2 passes, and I'm like, can you just go on like a 17-play barrage of throwing the ball to him and Carnell Tate just so I can like wake up here a little bit?
They're one of those teams where if they're not playing somebody that's a big brand, it's kind of always just sort of dull. Yeah. Unless you just love seeing guys go for like 1 billion touchdowns or whatnot. But yeah, it's just like, they're not going to lose that game.
Yeah.
So there's only so many games that are really going to get challenged.
They're not going to show a lot because they shouldn't. And that's what makes them so great. But boring can be good. Like if you're a fan of Ohio State, like I take that boring. I'm just saying as a person who has, no real feelings for Ohio State, one way or the other, generally, then, I would just want to see a fun game. But Texas Tech and Utah is going to be fun. Like that is the kind of game you're going to want to watch because both these teams are going to come out there slinging, in one way or another, like whether it's throwing the ball or just letting it loose and making big plays.
Yeah, it should be an excellent game. And I know it's not the big pull for maybe people nationally, like Ohio State versus Kent State. Pulls a bigger rating than Tech Utah, maybe in some years. But I don't think that if you're a college football fan, you should let your territory, I guess, kind of conference bragging rights and territorialism. What is the word I'm freaking looking for there?
Yeah.
But I don't think you
tribalism.
should. Tribalism. That's the word I was looking for. Putting 2 different words together. Like this one where you need to push your tribalism to the side of like your opinion about the Big 12 or your opinion about Texas Tech's standing in all of college football. Like this is a game that ought to be a lot of fun. And if it's not, then that will be equally as noteworthy because that means somebody blew somebody else out. And if that happened, then we're really wrong about, well, we're maybe not wrong, but we're going to learn something because if Texas Tech blows out Utah or vice versa, that may not mean that the other team's bad. It may mean like that one team that won is like really stinking good. So yeah, I can't wait to have more evidence. I can't wait to see, if Joey and company can go roll up to Salt Lake and say, I thought it was supposed to be hard playing at Rice-Eccles State. That's what everybody told us about this place. We just rolled in here and beat you guys. So you do that. And then on the other hand, if Utah wins, then all of their Twitter folks are going to be having the time of their life this weekend, going to war with the BYU fans and the Tech fans and all the other, peripheral Big 12 fan bases who have turned on them because of their lackluster welcome into the or lackluster enthusiasm when joining the league, which I do still understand from their viewpoint. You worked a long time to get into the pack, and then within a few years, it's not even a part of your deal anymore, and that's not what I think anybody was hoping for. But this will be a lot of fun. I think Baylor Arizona State will be very telling in some ways as well. TCU SMU ought to be a competitive game. So I think for that league, there will be some fun telling games, whereas there is a lot of a lack of evidence going on still right now. We've had some evidence for some teams, but there are quite a few, including both Tech and Utah, who have just buzzsawed 3 teams who had no business, upsetting them or playing them.
They've completed step 1.
Right.
Buzzsaw those teams. Step 2, buzzsaw some teams that are better than that.
Yeah.
Go and win your games. Absolutely. So when we come back, our old buddy John McClain was busy here on Tuesday, so we've moved into Friday. You'll hear him next. This is 365 Sports.
If you're tailgating tomorrow night outside of McLean Stadium before Arizona State Baylor, it's a 6:30 kickoff, so you're going to enjoy the morning, the afternoon, all the way up until the evening and the kickoff with the best product you need to get for any kind of tailgating. Order it now or go by there tomorrow if you want to add to what you already have. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, with tri-tip, with brisket, with chicken wings and burgers and sausage, bacon ends and chicken tenders, marinades and seasonings, custom orders early in the week, or even get over there today and tomorrow. Pick up for the weekend. Charcoal and pellet fuel, cold beer and wine. The Bauer family, years and years, decades of incredible experience, and what they've done inside this kind of business that allows you to have the product you need from beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist. John, you were you working on a documentary on Tuesday?
I was in Canton, Ohio. We were filming after hours the bust of the Prairie View Interscholastic League players who are entrenched in enshrined in Canton, and it was quite an experience to be there after hours, just us and our host, Rich DeRozers and Chris Schilling, and we had a blast.
Did they have? I was there in 2017, and that's when they had announced all of the improvements and the expansion of the campus. What has it been like since I believe they've finished all that, right?
Well, they finished a lot of it, but they still got cranes over there, and they're working. One of our producers, Scott Nedry, had been there like 25 years ago when it was one building. He couldn't believe it because neighborhoods have been bought out. The stadium there, McKinley Stadium, where Gantt McKinley, one of the country's most storied high schools, plays, and that's where they play the annual Hall of Fame game. But it's amazing what they've done there. The different buildings they have. To me, you cannot have enough artifacts from pro football, and they have a lot of colleges as well. And because of what we're doing on the all-black Prairie View Interscholastic League before it was absorbed by the University Interscholastic League when LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act, is fascinating. And there is a section for black players, and it is amazing how many Hall of Famers who are black played at the small, historically black colleges. You could shoot those guys up and play any team and beat them. And I never get tired of going to the Hall of Fame. And I tell people all the time, if you're going anywhere in pro football, you want to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, and you want to go to Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yeah, there you go. I haven't been to either one. Would love to go to both of those places. But yeah, I remember like learning about HBCUs when I was younger. I wasn't really aware. Like I was following Nebraska and Oklahoma and stuff. And then I loved the Washington, obviously the Redskins at that time, and Darryl Green. And that's kind of like what introduced me and opened the door to like learning about some of the smaller schools and guys coming from there, which is clearly not as often these days.
Well, Craig, you ought to make plans to go there. If you go on the induction weekend, it's Canton, the city about the size of Waco, grows to 250,000. Every hotel room from Akron to Amish country to Cleveland is taken up for that weekend because so many people come back. And I've been there. First time I went, 1985. I bet I've been 50 times since. Never get tired of it.
So, John, last night, Terrell Bernard with the big game-sealing interception for Buffalo. Great to see that. Buffalo clearly feels great about where things are right now. How much are you buying into just the downfall in Miami of the current regime and what they thought was very promising future, but maybe doesn't look as much that way, at least right now?
Terrell Bernard made big plays at Baylor. He's made big plays for the Bills. He got a new contract. He's a captain, but they still got issues on defense. They're giving up a lot of points. And one of the things that I don't understand in a lot of situations when Josh Allen runs the ball and it's not necessary, and we saw that last night, he has good weapons around him at some point. Like we see these quarterbacks going down early, that could bite them in the butt. Without Josh Allen, it's almost like you lose Superman. And but Tua Tagovailoa had that expensive interception by Bernard late in the game to secure it. But at least Miami made it interesting. I thought Buffalo would blow out the Dolphins. And everybody thinks Mike McDaniel's going to be the first coach fired. Maybe he will be, but at least they were competitive in the last two games. And at some point, you keep being competitive, you're going to beat some people. They got too much firepower on offense to keep losing.
Yeah, I think the GM probably goes first, John, if that decision is made to move on and shake things up in Miami. The Texans are 0-2. Is it over already before it starts?
If they lose in Jacksonville, where they have not lost since 2017, they'd be 0-3 with Indianapolis playing Tennessee, the worst team in the league last season. The Colts ought to be 3-0. You don't want to fall behind the 0-3, although they did it in 2017 18 against when Bill O'Brien was there. They had a terrible start, and then they had a 9-game winning streak, and they won the division. But that's the only time a team started 0-3 in like forever and made the playoffs. Texans have lost by 5 points at the Rams, defending division champion, lose by 1 to Tampa Bay here, defending division champion. Now they play the Jaguars, but the Texans have the same issues as last year, protection problems. And a lot of it is not players getting physically beaten. It's the mental part where they pick up the wrong people, and that's inexcusable. Either you got bad coaching or a bunch of dumbasses out there who can't pick up the right people, and they better get it corrected, and they better get it fast, because if they beat Jacksonville again, Tennessee comes here, so they should be 2-2, but boy, they don't want to be 1-3.
So watching that game on Monday night, I mean, I obviously felt the disappointment of the Texans not being able to hold on to that lead, but also just seeing Baker Mayfield do his thing and just how great of a fit he seems to be there in Tampa. And to think of like where he was in 2022, John, where like his career's at a crossroads after many years in Cleveland, and the dude's just a freaking gamer. Like, I know he can be kind of polarizing, but the dude just is a player, and it's kind of cool to see how his career has had this resurgence in Tampa Bay.
When I was in Canton, on my afterward, I had breakfast the next day with Tony Grossi, a friend of mine who's covered the Browns for 40 years, and he said that the big debate on talk shows in Cleveland on Tuesday, would Baker Mayfield have become the player he is today had he stayed in Cleveland, or did he need to experience failure? Did he need to bounce around to the Rams, the Panthers, and then finally landing at Tampa Bay to become the quarterback he's been? He's on his third offensive coordinator in 3 years, and it's almost like he coaches that offense. And he's pulled out the first 2 victories, both on the road, at Atlanta, at Houston. They're 2-0. Now they get to play it on for a while. So he'd be an early candidate for MVP. They keep talking about Josh Allen, and I'm thinking, well, Baker Mayfield's just done just as well. And they've got a good team there. Todd Bowles, a great defensive coach, and Mayfield's last 2 coordinators or head coaches in the NFL now. He has just done a tremendous job. And they not only outplayed the Texans, they outcoached them, but they still only won by 1 point. But people in Houston are very, very frustrated right now. And D'Amico Ryans and C.J. Stroud are getting criticism for the first time. And the offensive line and other pass protectors who continue to screw up, picking up the right people, they're used to criticism.
What was your answer? Do you think he would have been successful had he stayed in Cleveland, or do you think he had to leave that organization to finally find his way?
I thought the best thing about Mayfield getting out of Cleveland is we didn't have to see those Progressive insurance commercials anymore about that Cleveland Stadium being his house. And Kevin Stefanski's a good coach. And I think if he stayed there, he'd still be good because he grew up. And but he wouldn't have thrown for as many yards, because when you played Cleveland and Chicago, you were playing right on a Great Lake. And when they get their stadiums built in the suburbs, you're going to see them throwing for a lot more passes. He would not have done it there because the wind is so bad. And that's why Cleveland and Chicago historically have tried to do everything they could to have good running games. So I do not think he would have been the same quarterback statistically.
John, the Cowboys are 1-1. They had a daring high wire act to beat the Giants, who might be improved. Who the hell knows? They still kind of look like the Giants at times. What do you think of the Cowboys? Are they going to have maybe a bit of a roller coaster year as they adjust to Brian Schottenheimer and life without Micah Parsons?
I think that in the last 5 years in which Prescott has been healthy, played every game or most games, they've been in the playoffs. He looked great against the Giants. Russell Wilson looked great. And then he had one bad pass that he looked like he was punting on that interception in overtime that set up the victory for the Cowboys. So Cowboys almost beat the defending champions in their stadium. I think the Cowboys are going to make a good run at a wild card berth. You hope Jaden Daniels is not out for very long with Washington, but the Cowboys need to capitalize on every little thing they can. They're not going to win the division, but they can definitely contend for a wild card spot.
John, your Baylor Bears welcome Arizona State tomorrow. What do you think goes down?
I think everybody's fired up about this one like they were against Auburn, and they lost that one. I know David Landis lost some big games at home. This will be a chance to reverse that curse and beat the Sun Devils, the defending champion. It's got two great quarterbacks. I can't wait. I just hope Baylor's defense plays better against a quarterback who is outstanding and can run the ball, because it was frustrating to watch Baylor continually to be able not to stop Auburn's quarterback running. And the difference in Arizona State's quarterback, of course, he can throw as well as run. I think it's going to be a lot of points, a great setting. I can't wait to watch it.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist. John, we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, guys. Sick 'em Bears.
There we go. John McClain, the top 5. It's coming up next. This is 365 Sports.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome to Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Let's talk Tech versus Utah. Their keys to the game. Number 5, I'm diving right in. Protect the Baron. Baron Morton's biggest weakness has been Baron Morton's own health. And part of that has been because the Tech offensive line just has left a little be desired when it comes to protecting quarterbacks over the last 5-6 years. It seems like they're always getting hurt, and part of that is scheme-based, part of that is maybe talent-based. Well, he got a little banged up in the first week, but hasn't missed a beat and has played. So can you protect the Baron, Baron Morton? And I say the Baron because I would have liked to live in a time where somebody came to my house and said, do you know the Baron's in town? And I thought that would have been cool. And you'd be like, the Baron of what? And I don't know. Pickles. But whatever. Sometimes I have random thoughts in the middle of these things. It's my top 5. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Number 4 is a track meet incoming. I have a feeling with these two offenses, with Devin Dampier and with Baron Morton and the weapons that they have on either side, that we're going to see a high-scoring game. Not to say that these defenses aren't improved or good. I just think that when you've got dynamic players in a game like this, this is going to be a high-scoring game. Number 3, for Utah, you got to get Devin Dampier loose. You've got to make Tech's defense go, what are we going to do about this guy? That's what you have to do. And look, that's been their game plan for all this year. And I think they got caught napping in the first half against Wyoming this past week, where they went at halftime with like a 3-0 lead. Now, they won that game comfortably, and they looked like themselves in the second half. But Kyle Whittingham probably had to break a kid's finger that's not going to play, to give an example. I used that from the 1990s movie, The Substitute, starring Tom Berenger, where Mark Anthony, one-time Jennifer Lopez husband, gave him the bird, and he just broke his finger. It was awesome. See The Substitute. There's nudity. Number 2, can Tech neutralize the Utah crowd? This is where kind of being that run and gun, fun Texas Tech wide open offense can really, really help you. Not just in getting points on the board, but getting points on the board on the road and a feverish, rabid crowd taking them out of it. That's going to be key. Can you get the crowd back on their heels? Can you get them disinterested in this game? Can you maybe jump out to a 2-score lead on Utah and make the crowd have to will themselves back into it? That's a big thing. If they can neutralize the crowd, that is going to go a long way to them perhaps winning the game. And number 1, who makes the big mistake? This game is probably going to be close, and it's probably going to be a track meet. So who makes the big mistake? Who gives up a punt return? Who fumbles at the wrong time? Who gives up a key sack on a 3rd down and doesn't get the ball back? All those things. Whose big mistake is probably going to swing this game one way or the other, and that's why it's probably going to be a great one. That's going to do it for us. Andrew Villay's sprinkles next. The sprinkles being all of the, the accoutrements, the extra things like trivia right here. We'll start out with that. And this year, the NCAA began officially tracking player statistics in college football. Craig, what do you got?
Trying to think of because I've looked at a lot of statistics over the years. When would they? I think it's the bottom 2. I feel like now I pointed out the emoji thing yesterday. Andrew's going to be trying to trick me and not give me any way to figure out what's going on in his head. So I think it's one of the bottom 2. What do you think? Do you have a strong opinion one way or the other? I'm going to go 1952.
All right. I mean, that's the fire emoji.
See now we're getting into the emoji thing.
Yeah,
but see, the 48's a bullseye. So is he reverse psychology or is he telling us?
37 is the trophy.
Yeah, but I'll be gladly wrong, obviously.
All right.
But I just feel like when I think of college football, there's the pre-World War II and there's the post-World War II thing. So that's where my head is.
Let's go 1952.
Okay. Damn. So way off. See, now he knows that we know that he knows that we know.
Yeah.
And so now we can't go by the emojis anymore.
No.
But yeah, damn. Okay. Way off. Like the most wrong we've ever been on a single question so far to this point. So there you go. NCAA began officially tracking stats in 1937, year after the AP poll was established, standardizing rushing, passing, receiving stats within uniform definitions and reporting across all teams. So, okay, cool. The more you know.
Yeah. All right.
Like LeVar Burton.
Trivia question number 2. Okay. In what year was the first football game ever televised when Fordham hosted Waynesburg at Triborough?
Waynesburg. Party time.
All right. So I'm going to say the 27 radio was only 5 years old then. So I'm not going to say 27. I'm not going to say 39 because that would be, I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to lean towards 1945 here.
1945.
Yeah. Because 42 would be right in the midst of the war.
Right.
So
was Smokey the secret piece to us getting these questions right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, was he like the one unlocking the knowledge?
We did fine last week without him.
Yeah, we did.
We did. But now, here's the thing.
I think we pushed back on Andrew a little bit too much now. It's getting freaking hard.
When you kick a hornet's nest, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I really have no clue on this. I'm trying to like do some reasoning here. Waynesburg State, Fordham. When was TV invented? Do you know?
TV was invented in about 39. I mean, that's the thing.
Okay,
like, it's around there. So unless they like did it because they're like, well, what can we put on here? How about this Fordham game?
Right.
I don't know. I'm going to say 1945. I'm going to give them some time to have multiple cameras in a place.
I'll go with you, and if we're wrong, I'll just say, oh, it's Paul's fault.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's go.
1939.
1939.
Yeah, man. I felt like just kind of like the grainy looking footage, like that feels like it's like early days. So you're wrong about when TV was invented.
27. That's what I was thinking. Radio was 1919, maybe 1921, something like that. So yeah. Right.
First televised football game aired on September 30th, 1939. So right as World War II is about to start getting going, with Fordham defeating Waynesburg 34-7, broadcast by NBC's WTXBS. Coming at you.
Yeah.
It was a non-commercial telecast watched on roughly 1,000 TVs, marking a historic milestone with college football and TV history. TV was invented in 1927. Okay, cool, man.
All right.
So I can remember that as like, what was 27 in baseball that I'm thinking of? Was that
that's the Yankees.
Yeah, the 27 Yankees.
Murderers,
so that's when
Murderers
TV.
Row.
That's how I will remember that now for forever.
Murderers Row TV and the Murderers Row Yankees.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll always remember that now.
All right. Let's go to some polls, which are not wrong. So, look, the Tech fans, thank you, Brandon. The ding just makes me feel like I've accomplished something. There was like one of the best radio ads I ever heard in my life was a Bud Light ad years ago. And it was like where they were like, we salute you, this guy. And it was largemouth bass on the wall guy.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, I've got this fish. I caught this fish. What have you ever done? That's what the thing was. We got a ding. What have you guys done today? We got a ding. That's what we got. Our more votes from the Red Raiders than from Utah.
I'll push back a little bit. I don't think it's just exclusively Red Raiders. I think there's plenty of other people who maybe just think Tech's going to win this game. So I mean, to me, again, it's a coin flip. And I talked earlier about my sort of indecision all week long and talked a little bit at length earlier about just the Baron Morton versus Devin Dampier dynamic of, I think Baron Morton can throw. I think Texas Tech can run. I think Devin Dampier may be able to run against Texas Tech. How well is he going to be able to throw against Texas Tech? Like, that's my big question. If I had to pick today, I might be picking Tech, to be perfectly honest with you. But I've stuck with Utah all week, so I'll stick with them here. Yeah. But again, I'm not going to – there's some guys who are like, come on, dude. Like, you clearly just won't vote for your favorite or for your arch rival. But, like, this one, I truly don't think there's a bad pick here right now.
Yeah, you say it on camera. We said it on camera. We got to stick with it. So when we're right or wrong next week, that Andrew's going to throw up the graphic.
Oh, next week, if Utah wins, I'll be like, I never doubted it a single time. I was always in on Utah all the way in. Yeah, of course I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
But
all right, next up, if you could design your perfect stadium, what would matter most? Well, the winner is clear sight lines and seats, atmosphere and vibe at 34%, food and concessions, and tech and fan engagement. Clear sight lines and seats is the very first thing. If you don't have that, your atmosphere and vibe aren't going to happen.
Yeah, you're already starting behind, basically.
Yeah. And then I actually think that tech right now is really important. For people to be able to take pictures on their phones, to text people in the stadium, to where you have wireless so people can communicate with each other. And then, food and concessions, that's easy if you put forth even a little bit of effort.
Well, I'm very simple. I mean, so long as you can have like a hot dog and some nachos and some popcorn and some peanuts, like I don't need all this foo-foo Jerry's World kind of crap that they have nowadays. Like I don't need the sous vide burger and like all this.
Craig, you would consider me, one of the more accomplished foodies that right?
Yeah, you're a food snob. Yeah.
I'm a food snob. But when it comes to stadium food, like, I'll try it if it's like right there, or like when I've been at the State Fair of Texas, the only time I've ever tried anything outside of a corny dog was when I was doing a radio piece and they just brought me things. You know, I didn't venture out to go get them because when I'm at a stadium, I'm like you, like hot dog, nachos, beer and soda. Like that's what I want. I don't, you know, maybe I'll get a burger. If you say the burger's good, that's just about far afield as I go.
Clear sightlines is where you start. I think atmosphere and vibes is also would be my second choice, because I understand the importance of tech and fan engagement, but I don't give a damn about TikTok while I'm at the Commanders game. Like, it's so much cooler to be with just my fellow people, and we all are vibing off the game and like each other's spirit and energy that's just like natural, as opposed to I'm acting this way because I'm recording myself. Oh, here's the touchdown going on, but look at my reaction in real time. Like, to those of you who do that, I mean, more power to you, but I just live a really way different life where I'm not caught up in like recording my reaction so that a bunch of strangers can see it. I just don't give a crap about that. So for me, there's like when people are just together, it's cool. And I feel like the technology gets in the way of that more often than not. So that would be third for me, or that might even be fourth for me. Yeah. Although I know fan engagement is important, so I'm not trying to downplay that, because I've seen bad fan engagement and I can see how that drives people away entirely.
You know what? Texas, until the last couple of years,
it matters.
They were complaining. I remember going to a Texas game and then talking to a friend of mine afterwards and be like, it just sucks to come to games here.
That's one of the things Del Conte helped change and made a big difference. They did all sorts of pregame stuff now, and they've done it big. But like to the question, if you could design your perfect day and what matters most, it's clear sightlines and seats for starters, and that's period.
Well, and look, I think that atmosphere and vibe that goes like with the tailgating and stuff. I think like. You know what Baylor has? They have 3 of these nailed. They've got clear sight lines. The food and concessions is fine. Tech and fan, like the wireless works for me pretty much every time I'm in there.
Not me.
Really?
In the media it does, but if I'm in like if I'm around the state, I'll be sitting there next to the stadium trying to just see a score update, and I get nothing because there's so many people with cell phones going on.
Yeah. So I've only really been to 2 games. Like, you know, I went with Andrew last year to one. We sat with his parents, and like it was fine where I was. So I had no beef with it. But atmosphere and vibe, that's what Baylor needs to work on. They used to have a great one, and then they brought in the third party company to run the tailgating, and it's just so it's barren out there right now. You know, compared to what it used to be. Of you put all these people out there. So. But, yeah, those are all the important things. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks to all of our guests. Thanks to Andrew, Brandon, and Garrett. Smokey's back on Monday. Don't forget about 365 Sports tonight if you're in the Waco area. That's going to do it for us. Have a great football weekend, everybody.